all this time, and I'm only halfway through. Now to just put my head down and crash through that brick wall. Chapter 19. Tracing Weapons. The night was quiet as John exited his vehicle with a large gear bag filled with weapons confiscated from the desperados his team had taken down earlier that day. Alicia and Sunday, carrying the 50 cal machine gun, made their way into the gun lab run by the forensic private investigator named Arlo Gerber. They were quickly welcomed by the quirky, slender, dark-skinned forensic weapons expert who asked him to lay all the weapons out on a table made of a thick piece of plywood resting on 2 sawhorses. He immediately honed in on the AK rifles and the 50 cal machine gun. "Looks like somebody died today," Arlo commented. "Guns have a way of making that happen, don't they?" John asked. "My brother, I need a favor from you. As Shadow Wolf, I know you can be trusted with what I need to do." "And what favor's that, John Goad?" He took a sip of his coffee and looked at the lawman. "It isn't a favor to do what I can for a brother Shadow Wolf. It is what we do for one another, no? You want me to do something about this collection?" He tapped one of the rifles on its stock and picked it up and made sure it was unloaded before he checked for the serial number. "Can you know exactly where these were bought?" John's eyes were intense, drinking in the variety of weaponry laying before him. Knowing what he was asking his Shadow Wolf brother to do, hack into an ATF database, and that was highly illegal. "I should be able to. Why don't you just run it up the flagpole of government IT?" "ATF has to be kept out of the loop on this. So does DHS. So I need you to run the history of these weapons under the radar. Let's make this Shadow Wolf only, okay, brother?" Arlo picked up the handguns one by one, examining them closely. These looked like they were worked. "Yeah, let me have a longer look. Make yourself comfortable." He was totally into this small gathering of the pack as he went about his business. There was a bond amongst Shadow Wolves unique to them that created a wall between them and the outside world. Alicia walked slowly over to John and whispered, "Hey, big guy. Got some time for a lonely and neglected woman?" She rubbed herself softly against his side and smiled coyly, looking into his eyes. He looked back at her and ran his finger through her long black hair as he smiled warmly. "Let's get us a room," he whispered with a chuckle. Sunday commented stoically, "Should I close my eyes and plug my ears?" "I missed you. Please don't go anywhere for a while, okay?" John asked quietly, then ran his fingers under her chin as he looked at her beautiful face. "Yeah, I got something here." Arlo's eyes were glued to the laptop screen as he spoke. 3 of the handguns and 2 of the rifles were sold from Tucson. "When?" "Give me a minute." "They were all sold to the same person about 2 months ago." "Who's the buyer?" John asked quickly. "Jimmy Begay. His address is..." He paused for a moment and continued. "Ah, shit, this guy lives on the res." Arlo didn't like seeing trouble coming to or from the reservation. "This could be a problem for us," he muttered. "Beyond the obvious, Arlo. Why'd you say that?" "Not beyond, but right smack in the middle. The cartels are probably using our people to do bad things for them. Most of these bad things are directed at the government. Not a good development for us." "What about the rest of them?" Sunday asked. "I'll need some time to get all this in a bag." He turned towards John and smiled knowingly. "I don't think you and Alicia need to hang around here while I poke around. You want to leave the collection of guns with me? Should I just record the information that's on it and work with that?" John thought for a second. "I think we better take them with us for chain of custody concerns down the road. How long do you think it'll take you to run the rest of the weapons?" "Not sure, but I think I can have enough for you by tomorrow afternoon to get some solid leads." "I think from this point on, no one in this room should even say a 3-word sentence about this. You understand?" The big lawman said emphatically. "Can I tell my girlfriend?" Sunday said. "You don't have a girlfriend," John said. "You ain't met her yet," Sunday responded. But that demeanor completely masked the size of his intellect. "She is charming and completely civilized, just like the ladies who run with the ruling chiefs in D.C. You know, the same bunch who know what's best for us, all here on the res." Sunday was as close to John as his grandfather had been, though he was much younger than grandfather Nanton Goad. John owed him big time, along with his shaman grandfather, for keeping him on the path in his early years, mentoring him on his way to a career in law enforcement to the wisdom, his spirit nature. "Where the hell did that come from?" John blurted, laughing at Sunday's comment. After thinking a moment, he accepted it just as him being old dry Sunday. An hour later, the weapons went back into the gear bag, and Arlo indicated that he had all he needed to proceed with his end after he had finished writing down the serial numbers and checking the status on them. Alicia asked, "What do we do now?" "We already did the paperwork on the incident and have let Armando know enough of what happened to cover our asses. Let's head home and deal with the rest of it when we hear back from Arlo." Sunday hugged Alicia and John before he drove away, saying, "Behave yourself, youngins. You never know who's watching." John told Alicia the whole story on his newest contact, Sweet Tooth, during their drive to his cabin. She remarked, "I'm getting the feeling you've adopted another sidekick, Batman. What are you going to save him from?" "Himself, maybe." "Well, maybe, just maybe, you're following that internal compass that so magically kicks in when you're on the trail of something." She glanced at him admiringly, knowing her man had something quite unique amongst others. After all, the man could actually see footprints on the rocks, both hypothetically and physically, and they always led somewhere. "So your new sidekick's brother, Jimmy Begay, is doing the business of the cartel here in this country, or is that the business of the government?"
baby, he could be serving 3 interests.
What do you mean?
My feeling is that the government of Mexico is totally in league with the biggest and richest cartel, the Sinaloa. Think of it this way, the cartels have more money than the Mexican government. Some of those in the government are probably being propped up by that mafia who feed them money. They get the poorest of the poor out of the country into this one.
Makes sense. So you think they're working hand in hand solving one another's problems? And their problem out of Mexico and into America. Really smart.
That's nowhere near the end of my theory.
Oh, there's more?
What they're doing is preventing a revolution.
John, come on, a revolution?
No, just think about it this way. They're exploiting the people who could foment revolution. The poor, the unskilled, the uneducated. That's unhappy. With the cartel money, you can pay off those in the government who cause them problems. Why do you think so many people come into this country?
You been telling anyone about this?
Not yet, why?
This kind of stuff that can get you killed.
There's still more to it. My sense is leading me to believe that the cartel is being paid off by Islamic jihadists that the back and forth across the border, all over the country.
You think the Arabs are coming here through the cartel highways? You really think that, John? Talking poor Arabs or something else? Alicia had a strong sense of who her man was, and that gave her confidence. What he was talking about now was something that uncharacteristically frightened her.
I wish it was just poor Arabs instead of what is really coming in. You know as well as I do that we've been finding copies of the Quran strewed in many different parts of the desert between here and the border for the past year. What better indicator that Arabs are now coming across in larger numbers, but not for the same reason the Mexicans are. My feeling is they're part of the jihad with big money they're throwing around in Mexico, in Phoenix to East LA. They're recruiting for their jihad soldiers in Syria, Iraq, Pakistan, and Libya. They're dropping them to the U.S. under our government.
Alicia was becoming more uneasy by John's take on all this as the road rolled by under them. Our government? D.C., really? How high do you think this goes?
To the White House,
he answered without reservation. John, please tell me you haven't told anyone about this. Where'd you come up with this? This is too crazy. I can't get my head around it. Her concerns came rapidly as she worried for the safety of this man, whom she loved as no one else.
If you run this along a clear path of logic, all you gotta do is connect the dots. Had a big increase in mosques in almost every state. Parts of Michigan are now under Sharia law. Here in the USA, babe, we, our people, are a sovereign nation. With all our tribes around this country, we have our courts. We're still subject to the high law of the US, right?
Yeah.
How come those who have only recently arrived here are given the freedom to have their own court system not subject to the government? Here's the answer. It's not rocket science. Who's been running this country for the past 7 or 8 years? Who was raised Muslim? Who apologizes for America? Who bows to Muslim kings? Who has a history nobody knows?
John's passion was driven by the deep frustration of watching this country being so easily corrupted and manipulated and led to a place from which there could be no return. This is mind-numbing, but what? What do we do? Who can we trust with this?
Alicia, who would you go to with it?
John asked. Alicia started to blurt a reply, but caught herself before the words came out of her mouth, and she shrugged and asked John the same question.
The only ones I trust right now, and I emphasize the words only ones, are the Shadow Wolves.
I want you to be unbelievably cautious with what you say and who you say it to. You hear me, John? I heard what you said about trusting only Shadow Wolves, but Alicia cautioned this man whom she loved above all others without getting her thoughts out. She was flabbergasted at that moment. Listen to me, John. Listen. You can't say anything about this till we absolutely know who we're talking to, okay? The lawman looked over at his woman and smiled warmly.
Of course I hear you. I'm sitting next to you. How can I not?
Now, come on, John. The one quirk I find most annoying about you is your selective hearing. Don't try to shit me any more than a minute on this. It's too big for it to not get you hurt if it's real. She implored. You're my world, John Goad. My whole world. And I'm here with you because I feel that way. I want to catch bad guys as much as you, but this looks like what we're dealing with is worse than anything we've ever come up against. I will give my life for you. I will protect you always and love you beyond always. Do you understand me? Her eyes teared up as she looked him up and down. He nodded, deeply touched by her words. He knew what was between them, but she had never before voiced how deeply she cared for him. He felt that she was more than he deserved. John tried to calm her by taking her mind off what was troubling her as she sat with his hand on her left thigh, high enough up the leg to get a bit of a shiver out of her. The dog in you always maintains, doesn't it, my love?
It's the only thing that makes sense to me right now. You want me to sit up and bark?
He was trying to keep the conversation light and away from the ominous cloud that was following them that day. That cloud was big and full and mean.
Whatever it is that's landed in my lap is maybe a little more than I can handle. With what we have at hand, we can gather what we need from the Indian nations across this country.
I was making to say that, John. My gut. Chapter 20, The Drive. The early morning sun coming through the bedroom window woke Alicia first. She nuzzled close into John's body as his arm draped across her in a strong embrace. He came awake, saying, "Where did you come from?" He rubbed his eyes and then sat up in bed. Looking around the room, he uttered sleepily,
"Well, I guess nobody got in here and killed us last night."
"What's this we stuff?" she muttered.
Do you feel you deserve a cup of coffee?
I do.
You expect me to make it, don't you?
John chided. Hey, you offered.
I asked the question.
He laughed quietly as he threw his legs over the side of the bed, put on his pajama pants and a t-shirt, and looked back at the woman who gave him a reason to like getting up in the morning. He knew exactly how she wanted her coffee. John's phone rang. It was Sunday, saying, I got something to tell you ain't gonna like. Oh, what'd that federal asshole do now? Oh, he's already climbing all over Armando about the shootout yesterday. He's demanding a full report, Sunday said flatly.
What did Armando tell him?
Nothing.
What time is it?
It's early.
Yeah, I kind of figured that.
John knew better than to take the conversation any farther down that path. Instead, he asked,
Tell me more about what's going on with the feds.
He busied himself with a single-shot coffee machine on the kitchen counter. This guy Wilson is uncomfortably mysterious.
Mysterious? Never thought of him that way. More of an asshole than a mystery.
John liked his own description of Sunday better than Sunday's. You're missing the point, Goad. I checked him with my people, and he came back empty.
Empty?
Empty as in he does not exist. Is not in the CSS. This is a strange happening. If he is government, he's buried so deep even we can't find him. We have to be careful how far we go, because they're always looking out for dogs to come sniffing. They don't like sniffing, even a little of it.
You telling me some kind of super spook? Who told you that?
Another wolf who works where this information can be had. Sunday knew things before anyone else knew them, and that was because of whom he knew and where they were. What's wrong? Alicia got out of bed and approached John with concern.
I'll be a son of a bitch. This is what those pricks are capable of.
John slammed his hand on the dresser he was standing near, expressing his anger at allowing himself to be taken in by this guy so easy. He had been so intensely focused on his dislike of him that he had completely disregarded even questioning who he was or who he wasn't. John, listen to me, Sunday demanded. You can't let the toothpaste out of the tube. If you do, I'm afraid that they'll be able to track my information that could get us one or two less brothers.
How long, Sunday?
How long what?
How long do we have to let this guy roam around before we cap his ass?
I don't know, a couple days.
We need to get the 4 desperados we bagged yesterday out of the county jail to our holding facility before this guy gets them. He's probably in bed with them and their bosses. Just keep him quiet or dead.
John's wheels were rolling. His innate ability to call the right shots instantly was what maintained the confidence of his peers. He threw on his clothes, and so did Alicia. Walking quickly out to his vehicle, he called Noche, told him what was happening, and asked that he call the rest of the wolves who'd been with them at the shootout in the desert, tell them to meet up at the jail. John's phone rang again. Hi, it's Jill from Forensics.
Hi, Jill, you got something for me?
Yeah, that tooth you dropped off belonged to a woman. Says she got some tribal blood in her family.
Anything else?
Not yet, but I'd be careful if I were you.
About what?
About whatever it is you're looking into these days. My feeling is this looks like a professional's job.
What makes you say that?
This is a piece of a tooth. This to me was purposely broken into pieces. That's what somebody does when they want to make the path of understanding more difficult. I can't discuss this any more than what I'm saying, but I need to tell you when you're marked.
What are you hearing, Jill?
You're causing some folks a lot of headaches. People in high places. Stay frosty, John. Who's that, John?
Forensics. Something I left with them.
Problem?
Maybe.
Although she wanted to know more, Alicia dropped the subject, sensing her man was not ready to talk about it. They were rolling rapidly down the dusty back road from John's cabin towards the paved road. What's the plan? Alicia asked as she watched the road disappearing under her wheels. Pick up all 4 of the carteleros and then take them to the tribal holding station for a little chat. For how long? I don't have to say that's not where we can keep prisoners a long time. We can hold them as long as we need to. This shit's going over the edge, and we may be the only ones who know it. They pulled up at the jail just as Noche and Chico arrived. I feel like we might have something big going on in this little desert, folks. We have to break some rules and we'll just smoke it out. Good with that? He looked at Noche and Chico for opinions, and he saw heads nodding. Okay. Noche explained that all he could rouse that quickly was Chico. Listen, people. I'll take these 4 months to the res and hold them there. We gotta go now. John directed the crew as they took custody of the foursome and left the jail grounds, with John and Alicia carrying 2 prisoners and Noche and Chico carrying the other 2. Half hour later, 3 SUVs rolled into the jail, and Wilson led 5 agents into the facility to find that the objects of his quest were no longer there. He shouted at the officer in charge, screaming at him that they had no right to release his prisoners to anyone else. Where were they taken? Under whose authority were they transferred? The jail commander answered cautiously, wondering if he was now in a compromised position,
releasing the four to the tribal police. He said slowly, "They were the arresting officers on record, and there was no hold from your agency on file, so it wasn't irregular in any way to release them." "What kind of a dumb system do you have here, Lieutenant? I know there's a hold on him, so we laid it in on them 2 hours ago." His face was red with rage. "I don't know where you lodged that hold, but it's not in our system. Check for holds before anyone gets released. Not see anything on them." He started to stand his ground as he became bothered by Wilson's demeanor. "Oh, piss off, Abner," Wilson furiously said as he turned and left the building, his wheels on fire. At that moment, John Goad heard from his mentor. "Sunday. Got some more news, John Goad. It's not good." "Lay it on me." "There's something going down around you. My storytellers are saying that you're being targeted by some big honchos from D.C. D.C., John Goad, the land of the Redskins. That was Sunday's way of making a joke in a serious connection. Serious situation by bringing up the politically correct silliness over the name of the team. Getting some sense out of that highway ambush. Things look like they don't play. Now it appears that they're looking to do something to you. How do you spell deep state? First word begins with a B. I'll call you back as soon as I drop the load. Keep your phone on ring." John couldn't say anything more within earshot of the prisoners. They arrived at the reservation holding facility 20 minutes later and placed the carteleros in separate interview rooms. John couldn't say anything more within earshot of the prisoners. They arrived at the reservation holding facility 20 minutes later and placed the carteleros in separate interview rooms. John asked Noche and Chico to walk security on the facility. Noche was in the hall and Chico outside the building. He ran Sunday's words through his head before he called them back. "We need to get a meeting of everyone in this pack. Can you put the word out?" John asked. "When?" Sunday asked. "Now, as soon as possible," John urged him. "All right, big guy, keep your head down. I'll get moving and let you know as soon as I have it all set." John assured his brother Wolf he would be careful. "Where do you want us to go for the meeting? Get him here to the facility." "What do you say?" Alicia looked at John and wanted to hear everything he knew. "Someone's got a hit on me." "Why am I not surprised to put the hit out? Looks like it's coming from D.C. "Wilson?" "I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. Supposed to be reaching way above his pay grade." "Why would the big ones want your head, John? You're just a desert Injun. Why would those so far removed want you dead?" "I think that's something we gotta find out." And fast. The phone rang again. It was Armando Grant. "What the hell did you do now, Goad?" "What you mean, boss? Is it that piece of dog shit agent running all over your ass?" John was becoming annoyed with his supervisor's lack of spine when dealing with Wilson. "I mean, what's going on with the guys you brought in yesterday? Where are they, John?" "Can't tell you that over the phone." "Why not?" "National security. We could be hacked." "What does that mean?" John responded sarcastically. "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty." "You hitting that firewater, Goad?" "Look, I made a decision with my prisoners in my investigation to talk some more with these boys about the beauty of observing the spirit of cooperation between our two countries. Trying to develop more of a spirit of cooperation between our two countries. That's all, boss." "You listen to me and you listen to me closely. You bring them back to the Maricopa County Jail now." "Boss, believe me, that is not something I can do at the moment, and I'm not exaggerating about the national security part of this." John paused, waiting for Armando to say something, but he didn't. John continued. "These are my team's arrests. We have them in the state of Arizona on reservation land. They got tribal charges for now, and we got first dibs for now. Now trust me on this. I'll do you proud, I promise."
"More than likely to get me done in, tall man. Bring these fuckers back to MCSO lockup. Do it now, John, before you take us all down with this." Armando had never sounded more concerned. Tell me how long this will take," he said, finally giving in. "As long as it takes," John replied. "Look, we don't have that long. Get him back by tomorrow. No ifs, ands, or buts." "Okay, boss." "Armando's pissed," John said dryly as he put the phone in his pocket, wondering what the feds could do to his boss. He made a mental note to call the U.S. Marshal for the District of Arizona, Eric Kahn, who he'd come to know over the past few years. He had come up through the ranks and was respected by all Arizona law enforcement. John felt he could be trusted with some, if not all, of what he discovered. "What's the plan?" Noche asked. "We need to have a heart-to-heart with these guys. I'm in a chatty mood. How about you?" 2 hours later, after a briefing by John, the facility was surrounded by 8 shadow wolves. They were so hidden in the terrain you couldn't see them from 10 feet away. John targeted the cartelero member who he sensed was most likely to see things his way. "You want to talk? You'll be able to help yourself here." "Yeah, it's a first for me," the man answered sarcastically. "Where'd you learn English, essay?" I get around.
Around where? Anywhere the wind blows and I can find some blow. Poof, I'm there. You realize looking at some heavy time here, amigo, right?
Yeah?
Come on, you're a young guy. You look straight, you look healthy. I'm not woman like you're horny. So why would you want to spend a good part of the rest of your life without that kind of trim, man? Well, enough of other guys who smell worse than you. Yeah, now I'm wondering now, you a cop, you a pimp? What are you saying here? This guy, be your ticket to ride. I got you by the balls, I'm holding all the cards. You know what? I'm feeling generous, I'm gonna make you a deal.
Yeah, what kind of deal, Geronimo?
Why are you calling me by the name of my great ancestor?
Yeah, you're the red man. I don't know, I'm just wondering, I guess. Why you're working for the white man for peanuts so you can make real money working for us?
Wondering if I'm for sale?
Wondering if you speak with forked tongue like Geronimo accused your handlers of doing with him.
How would you know anything Geronimo might have said, who might have said it to?
Yeah, I saw it in a movie, don't get pissed. You know the white man screws all us over most of the time. But maybe you bought their bullshit, that's why you got the gun on your hip and you're wearing a badge. This man was about 29 years old, wiry, 5'9", with a mustache. So I thought he reminded him of somebody, but he couldn't recall who at that time. You want me to help you or not? I'm listening, keep talking. John winked back, and now silently, Allah Akbar.
Here's the deal, give me what I want, I'll give you the rest of your life back, a chance to get your ass home.
Yeah, why should I trust a cop? What guarantee do I have that you won't get what you want out of me? The information, then you leave me out to dry. Get what I mean?
Yeah, I get it, you have to trust me. I don't give a shit about nailing you and your dumbass friends. I want to know what you know about who's sending you here, what you bringing. Give me something big and it turns out to be real. It's one of the shit that turn into something that smells a lot better for you.
I don't know much about anything other than hot chicks. That's my obsession.
Surprised that you know a word like obsession. What other words do you know? Was that the name of your boss in Phoenix? When you changed the plan for the second group coming in yesterday?
You want to get me killed, don't you? If you give up what I know, I'm a dead man walking, Geronimo. You can stop this mess right now. How? Let me go.
I could do that, might do that, but you know what you gotta do just when I'm not freeing you. Give me the names of the guys who changed the plans yesterday. That's all you gotta do. And if you don't, you can spend a long time behind bars and get your ass killed behind these bars because you know too much.
The lawman was emphatic, and his subject looked like he was thinking hard about what he was hearing. Wondering if he was still being tested by this Indian cop. Okay, so let's say we do a deal. What do I get out of it?
Depends on how honest you are.
I got something good, some of which is what I know for sure, some of which is what I think is going on. Which one do you want to hear first?
First, give me the name of the Phoenix boss.
Frankie Headcase. He's been dead for 3 weeks, John said. He don't exist and he never did.
Like I said, you'll spend a lot of time behind bars. I'll make sure of that.
Alright, look, let's knock off the shit. Either you're not what you say you are, maybe you got turned in Iraq or Afghanistan.
I never had to be turned. I was already there. How about you?
I don't know what that means. Turn? Turn what? Turn to shit? What do I call you? Alicia suddenly joined in. Why do you want to know that? You want me to call you up someday, Chica? You make me give up something, I can make you glad you worked me. He winked. Yeah, I'd like that, she said sarcastically. Let's start that process with you telling me your name so I'll know it's you when you grace me with your call. I'm Gato. I like when I'm called Gato, that's what most people call me. You got anything to drink, Chica? You like a beer or a whiskey? Both, okay? One pleases my taste, one pleases my thirst. John looked at him and smiled.
That's a profound line, I gotta remember it.
Alicia returned with a bottle of water. She placed it before Gato. Let us proceed, John sat quietly, his eyes pierced through the prisoner. Chapter 21. The Deep State Jihadi Army revealed. Sunday exited his vehicle and started walking through the parking lot towards the casino. He did not notice the window rolling down on the white van parked 2 rows over where he had parked. In a second, a silent bullet found its mark in the enigmatic shadow over his head. He fell sideways between 2 parked cars dead before he hit the ground. No one noticed Sunday lying lifeless on the ground at first. As the shooter rolled slowly out of the lot, the world seemed eerily changed by the passing of a spiritual man. Emptiness permeated the air, and John felt the passing in his heart instantly. Something just happened, he said to Alicia. They were sitting in the meeting room of the tribal police facility. Alicia was concerned when she saw the expression on his face. What do you think happened, was all she could muster. I don't know. I don't know. He shook his head. They'd taken a slight break to talk about where they'd gotten so far with Gato.
Let's go back in the room and finish the interview with that jerk. They entered the room and resumed their conversation with Gato. What they learned from that interview was sobering. They were both seasoned law enforcement officers. What came out of the cartelero's mouth made John know they'd been chasing rabbits and should have been killing the snakes. What got their attention was the claims of corruption and treasonous actions of some U.S. government agents he had seen while doing his business. The corruption apparently could be running as deep as he claimed, as John had feared and Alicia had sensed. It wasn't regarding those illegal aliens coming from Central America. How do you know all this, Gato? How would the bosses let a guy at your level know all this? How do you know what my level is? That's a good point. How do I know what your level is? John pondered Gato's statement and told him, I'm gonna get us all some food, take a break and eat. I'm gonna get a pulled pork sandwich. Does that sound good to you? Gato instantly reacted, obviously repulsed by the suggestion. I don't eat swine. He spat, then he caught himself and added, pork makes me sick, really sick. Yeah, I bet it does. Noche came running down the hall towards John, his face distorted in anguish. He stuttered, John, I don't believe this, John. He shook his head. What is it? Don't believe what? Sunday's dead. They nailed him in the casino parking lot a couple hours ago, Noche said sadly. John's head swung. What happened? How'd it happen? Who the hell could have gotten him? Sunday, a big influence in John's life since he was a child, was gone. It can't be. John's thoughts splintered through his head. Keep control, Big John. Keep control. You know, I just thought I saw my grandfather in the hallway near the back door. He came in to tell me. He knew Sunday for many years. They were both incredible friends and trackers. Your dead grandpa, John? The only one I ever knew. The only one. What are we up against here? Noche asked. We need to talk. All of us. How far do we reach to the pack, John? As far as we need to go. The only ones who can be trusted are the wolves. It's a blood trust and nothing else. What do we do with these hombres? Noche asked, nodding his head towards the rooms where the other carteleros were being held. Protect the one I'm talking with. He could be a Pandora's box. What do we do with him? For now, we say he escaped. We're holding on to the rest as a way to get him back. You think Wilson's gonna buy that? Right now, Wilson's not my priority. He's a spook, Noche. Probably a spook. Sunday told me this guy, Wilson, doesn't even exist, and now Sunday's dead. He doesn't really understand what we're up against, because that's the beginning of what we might actually be looking at. Be very careful about who we can trust outside the pack. What are we talking here, John? Shouldn't we be reaching out for help inside our community? If we can find it. Tell me that there's no one we can trust? Bingo. No one. Come on, Goat. You gotta be kidding me. There's gotta be. No, we gotta be here with this. Maybe we could talk with Eric Kahn. He could help us. Words came slowly from Noche. Bring in the U.S. Marshal? Why not? He's been setting up on a lot of stuff that's to do with the Reds. From what I hear, he's not chicken shit about breaking balls, even if DC puts pressure on him. Why would he want to get involved? He's got his hands full with the DOJ assholes who are trying to run him into the ground for opening his mouth. Not the way ATF handled Fast and Furious. How the AG protected them and the president from criminal charges. Shit, man. You have to be crazy to even consider working with us. John was hoping that what he was saying was wrong. Maybe the Marshal could get involved if it came to that. He could only hope. 2 hours later, a drone was circling over their heads as it viewed the facility. The drone pilot was miles away. He might as well have been in the craft as he observed the facility and the area surrounding the building. The 8 shadow wolves who had been gathered earlier and placed in protected positions, not detectable as they lay and blend with the landscape. You see anything? Wilson asked the pilot. Yeah, there's a few cars in the lot, but no one's moving around the outside of the building. Keep your eyes in that area. For how long? Until I tell you to leave. Got that? Sure thing, boss. One of the shadow wolves who was lying prone in the protective circle quickly picked up on the drone and observed it as it hung in the air. He did not want to give it away. He did not want to give away his position by moving to make a call to John to alert him. Within a few minutes, Wilson called the drone pilot back, ordering him to fly his craft in surveillance over the area around John Goat's cabin. Got the coordinates? Yeah. The drone controller flew the robot craft off, and the wolf observing it immediately texted John to alert him, hoping there was another one somewhere unseen. Keep your eyes open, brother. He sensed that Wilson was figuring out that they were on the reservation, probably right where they were. He wondered how much firepower he had, and what they were willing to do with it. Just then he heard a faint whisper to his ear. Trust the old ways, Nantan. Trust your brothers and sisters. What? John spun around, startled by what he heard or what he thought he heard. There was nobody, but he noticed a white feather in midair, floating to the floor a few feet from where he was standing. Alicia was alerted when he saw him spun around. What is it?
Her eyes followed him as he bent to pick up that feather. What's that? John shook his head. I need to hang on to this one. It might have come from a special place. What? She asked, somewhat confused by his words. We'll talk about it later. I think we need to go at him, John. I mean the SCC. They have some strange people among them. At least the group we met, whatever they're up to, could be hard to undo if we don't do something like go right at them. That's exactly what we need to do. We can't go at them from the direction they think will be coming. Let's finish the conversation with Gato. My gut tells me he's telling part of what he knows, and part he's not telling could spell big trouble for this country, especially for us because of what we're seeing in proximity to the border. John and Alicia brought him back from the cell into the interview room, and the big man sat down again across the table from the cartelero. Alicia sat against the wall, studying Gato intently. I need you to tell me how many jihadis are coming across that border. John leaned into him with a new intensity. Don't let me go if I tell you the wrong number, because I know that you know that number better than I do. How would I know that? He laughed as a response. I'm gonna hurt you bad if you don't stop playing me. Hurt you real bad. You can't do that. You're an American cop. You don't do that. I have no limit to what I can do to you right now if I want to. You know, all it would take is me dropping to your amigos and then you flipped on them. Your life wouldn't be worth a nickel. So what is it gonna be? They wouldn't believe that shit, man. Come on. They won't believe it until I take them back to the jail, but hang on to you. It seemed to John as if maybe the bad spot Gato was in was finally starting to dawn on him before he spoke. Look, maybe there's a place I can take you to where they meet with some of your federales in the desert and they party all night, drinking, celebrating, doing what they want, some hot mamacitas. Then before the sun comes up, they take some poor bastards out to the brush and they fucking behead them. In case someone's watching for running off at the mouth. Where in the desert? Look, you can stop playing this stupid game with me. If you want to get something from me, I know who you are, but you have no idea who I am, do you? Maybe I don't know who you are, but I know what you are. Yeah, what's that, lawman? His persona suddenly changed completely from Mexican gangster to other than Mexican, along with his accent. You remember the jihad? John said. How'd you figure that out? I offered you pork, and you refused it. When did you turn? When I met Mohammed. The prophet? No, the guy you know, Mohammed, told me about you and what you did for his family. What's he talking about? It's a long story, way before I met you. Mohammed said I should find you or have you find me and tell you something close to you was going to take you out. Mohammed says he owes you a debt he can never repay, but he wants to try by saving your life. Alright, explain to me, Gato, how did we get to this point? How did you come to be embedded with this group that just happened to be taken down by my unit? How'd you come to be singled out by me as your interrogator? What's your real name? It's Gato. And it's got to stay that way for all our sakes. I'm working within this group as an agent of a foreign power that will go unnamed for now. I report to Mohammed. It took a few years to get us in place. A man named A.B. Who you thought was the leader of the gang, he wasn't. He was taking directions from somebody who I was trying to identify, somehow wound up where we did, when we did. We took care of that, didn't you? So the message is that's why you were embedded? John was laser focused on Gato's words. Bingo. Could have fooled me. No, I don't think you could have fooled, at least for a long time. That's why we feel you could be an important part of stopping what this group is doing to this country and this part of the world. How did you know they ought to be who you would be interacting with now? Why would I pick you out of the group? Muhammad said that you were on a spiritual level that would guide you to me. Spoke about your gut and felt that the spirit would deliver this outcome. Muhammad throws logic out the window most times, but stays well within the range of spirit. Seems to work for him, no? Why the masquerade going to this level to get you here in this place at this time? It was a test. The only way to do it without the presence of prying eyes and curious ears. The corruption of which we speak reaches clear up to the White House and back down to the street. The money involved makes the cartel look like chump change. This is an environment of double dealing, low to no trustworthiness, and even the most principled have been known to fall under the spell of oil money. Many a good man has been seduced by the amount of it and is waved under their nose, thus making it necessary to test even you. Still, what made you so certain this would work? And it was the only way to find me and mine. I followed Muhammad. I worked for him. This is his way in. Yeah, how is Muhammad these days? He's blessed but deeply concerned. Now is the time for action which only you can bring, John Goad. We don't have much time left. You've been vetted by 2 agencies, Alicia, unofficially, but vetted none the same. Yeah, what'd they find? They found that you were very impressed with John Nathan Goad. Need I say more? There are units of ISIS-trained soldiers who are crossing the border every day.
They're being held by the cartel and by some in this government. The fast and furious guns that you thought were going to the cartels are actually going through them to Islamic soldiers. They're spread all over this country as part of the arsenals of the sleeper cells who are awaiting their activation on the day of the jihad in America. Some of those guns wound up in Europe too, already used in some of those shootings. So why is he laying all this insanity at the feet of a simple Native American tribal policeman? You are a leader in the Shadow Wolf community through this country. They are as bloodbound to their roots and principles as they are to their old ways. It's the only national group of warriors who can be trusted and who can get what must be done. Yeah, John Doe, the ones that can be trusted, because the Muslim Brotherhood is all over the White House, mingled into intelligence agencies. Alicia finally said, I'm freaking out here. Like, what's going on? I mean, what the hell is happening? This is all surreal. I feel like I'm in a movie or a bad nightmare. That's the best way to describe it. We need to find the strength of something from the other side to fight this battle. The other side of what? Of everything. I can remain with you from this point on to help you. My communication with Muhammad is this way. He calls me. I don't call him. So, if you believe me, and you agree to allow me to help you, you have to go with your gut about whether or not I'm real. Of course, I'll be proved by my actions and not by my words. John decided he could work with his interesting double agent, but that decision was based on pure instinct alone. What next? There's an event going on about 40 miles south of where you grabbed us. I don't know if it's tonight or tomorrow night when they'll be partying again. How often do they do this? It depends on what's happening in their universe. That's easy. They tell the cartel jefes a few days before, and they get the crew moving. That's their pattern. That's how they've been able to pin their moves before they make them, because of their patterns. We can tell if different bosses are calling the shots, or they handle the scheduling the activities. Different bosses. Yeah, for like, here's an example. One time, bring 2 pickup trucks. One has tents, the second has hookahs, music equipment, and drinks. And they have a third vehicle, a van, with the bastards who are going to get their heads chopped off, and the ones that they bring to do it. The ones they bring to watch never betray them after watching what happens to those who fuck up. Then on another foray, they go into the desert and they run mock raids with sharp precision. They are very well trained and dedicated. And stopping them here in this country almost impossible. Chalk out the political correctness. So why even try if that's what things are? I said almost impossible. If all we had to do was depend on the US government, we'd all be toasted. We'd be wearing a headscarf, if we still had a head, we'd be praying 5 times a day. John went iron-faced, totally without expression, because he was emptying his mind. He remembered his martial arts master's words. Focus on one thing, that's all you will see. Focus on nothing, you will see everything. Go no mind, John Goad, go into the void. He did exactly that, becoming a shadow, emitting no emotions or energy. The complete opposite of what he was just seconds before. That was his way of gathering energy and clearing his mind. Gato thought for a moment that John had disappeared. He started when the big lawman suddenly returned, silent and foreboding. He stared like a hawk taking out a snake. You need to change. Change? Yes, I report officially that you broke out of our custody and fled to the desert. I'll make it plausible that you may not survive your trek. It'll be the end of Gato, the cartel gangster, and the end of Gato, the undercover agent. I need you to be able to roll with us on this. The only way I can do that is to re-identify you as a DEA undercover agent. Now we need to get a read on whether or not there are some people in the federal law enforcement agencies that we can trust. Cartel money is flowing through every level of our government. I can't get my arms around just how deep in the ranks of law enforcement. The politicos are always up for sale, the way it is with those in power. Those in our ranks, I'm in trouble believing they've reached many of them. Except for Wilson. Would you agree that the cartels own a big part of the body politic in the US of A? Not just this country, they also own a good part of the Mexican government. You know that better than me, Gato. With the corruption so rampant, Mexico is a fat and safe environment for Islamic terrorists to operate freely. We're being invaded by an enemy that has no standing army, no navy, no air force. Just thousands of highly trained fighters with their training camps just miles from our border. Some of the people they own in the Mexican-American government. That's all it takes. They're about to grab us by the balls. John thought for a moment and continued. The only thing that jumps out at me is how Muslims and Catholics are mixed together. And so this is it would go down too easy. It all comes down to money. The jihadis have plenty of it, and the Catholics are working with them wanted. As long as that's a factor, the whole thing works. The people who are being victimized, they are the peons who have to work for those tyrants. That is where the chink can develop in the armor. Who's the big player on the Catholic side of the street? Antonio Septuan, who operates out of the City of Angels. He's one ruthless and heartless son of a bitch. What have you got on him? He's a reptile suspected of wiping out large groups of people just to get his point across. Where are the murders being committed? In Mexico? Mostly, but there's a few in LA. Really brutal stuff.
what's the motive for the beheadings? Trying to get a message across. To who? Anyone who gets in his way. So to summarize, this Septuan is a major player for the cartel and doing business with the OTM. He's one, but he's not the only one. So he's the linchpin between the OTMs and the cartels that apply to the entire southern border. He's got California and Arizona, New Mexico and Texas with a big boss man named Papi Costa. He's even worse than Septuan, but doesn't go to confessional. Both bowed down to somebody who goes by the name of Mandrell. Is Mandrell a Muslim by any chance? I have no idea. I fully attest to the fact that they've been doing here. I can fully attest to the fact that what they're doing here is what they do overseas. What's happening in Europe, they're flooding the place. Even in Australia. Now you gotta ask yourself how this happened. Answer: the power of oil money for the leaders and the power of guilt for the fools who are led. That is exactly what we have here. Exactly. I hope you're wrong, John. I can tell you how much I hope you're wrong on this. I'm not wrong. Look what we have in DC. Since these people have been here, Islamic terrorism is showing up in places in the last 5 years I wouldn't have even been thought of before. I've been picking up on this, but telling myself it couldn't really happen. Not here, but you know what? I was wrong. I'm looking around at a lot of people who are not catching on to this. It is not good. We've been chasing the smaller dragons. We're chasing the drugs. We should have been picking up on the guns. So what do we do, John? What do we do? As a good start, let's get everyone together in the briefing room. Tell the group outside to leave one of them so we have eyes and the rest to come in. John looked around at the group and asked Chico to sit in the door so he could observe the hallway to where the prisoners were being held. They were handcuffed behind their backs and their feet were shackled, so one pair of eyes would be adequate. John seized the moment to talk to his crew. Brothers and sisters, you have to trust me on this. No more, no less. Noche spoke up. We trust you, Big John. If this guy is real, if you say this guy is real, then he's real. We're just telling you, ain't nothing new to us. Come on, man. We've been watching what's going out of Mexico for years. That could not be happening without their and our top government bosses saying it was okay. Alright, we got some bad people around what's going on in the desert. Not many miles from where we're standing. Shit, like I never thought happened around here ever before. Like I said, crush it from the top down. It's gotta be. Yeah, we're not just talking Mexico here. We're talking the government of the United States. A lanky young shadow wolf named Perky, who'd been part of the outside protective circle, said, I thought you were going to tell us something we didn't know. I'm not trying to be funny, this is some heavy shit because we don't know who or where they are. Someone as awake as Sunday can be taken out like that. There's no telling in which direction the next round might be coming from and under what circumstance. I think we need to do a prayer for our fallen brother. The group remained silent with eyes closed, and John began to chant. Chapter 22, Grandfather's Ghost. Wilson ordered a team of 4 to the cabin of Ama God, the aging mother of the Native American lawman. I want you to scoop her up and bring her out to the cave. Which one? Kazi Kamir, the lead man asked. How many caves do you know about Kazi? Anyone within the area? I'll go with the one I believe you're talking about. Kazi felt foolish asking which cave to take her to. He was a cold-hearted murderer who didn't like looking dumb, and that's how Wilson saw him. What do we do if there's resistance? This is a 60-year-old woman. What you gonna do? You're afraid she's gonna kick your ass? No, but I am aware of who her son is. That's why I asked. We have eyes on him, and he is not anywhere near the cabin. If we have missed anyone else who might be there, kill them. Bring her to the cave alive. Roger that. I want you to take her to that fucking cave, keep her there until I tell you otherwise. When are you gonna be there? I'm not sure yet. Alright, I'll do my part. Kazi Kamir was not a fool. He'd been trained in Iran by the Quds, and had no qualms about killing anyone who got in his way, especially if they were a Jew or an American. He had a great disdain and distrust for that man, Doug Wilson. He had no choice but to work with him for what he thought was the greater good, knowing that the mission lying ahead was wrought with a good deal of potential for catastrophe for himself and for his handlers in Iran. However, the opportunity here to be part of something was so great, it was too enticing not to risk everything trying to make this work. Or if it did, it would rattle America to its core, even more than the World Trade Center coming down. The plan was to set out 2 vehicles to the cabin. They had sophisticated weaponry provided to them by the Quds and Wilson. Kazi warned them of the uncanny abilities of John Goad and his Shadow Wolf team. I've been told that these people, they can move like actual shadows, hit you from any direction, then disappear like you were never there. Sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me, came a comment from the group. I've seen and heard stuff like this many times. The thing I enjoy most about it is the look in the eyes of these fools before I take their heads off with one of these. With an insidious smile on his lips, he lifted a small sword from the scabbard on his belt. His name was Kumar. He was 31. He had brown skin, a heavy beard, and a body in excellent shape. The same can be said for his other two cohorts. A half hour later, they rolled slowly up to the cabin of Ama God, on alert and at the ready for just about anything. The cabin was quiet with no sign of activity as the sun sent the last glimmers of light across the desert sky. Disembarking from their vehicles, Kazi sent two to the back while he and Kumar went to the front of the cabin. He knocked on the door. There was no response. He knocked again and heard a woman's voice announce, "I'm coming, give me a minute." A few seconds later they heard, "Can I help you?" Ama God stood slowly behind a half-open door. The smile on her face disappeared as she took in the sight of weapons pointed at her. "Oh no!" she yelled as she tried to slam the door. It was futile. They kicked it down and they knocked her down. They put her in the back seat of the vehicle with Kumar sitting next to her. At that moment, John had a strange feeling. "I think something very bad is happening." "What's making you say that?" Alicia asked. "Do you see that?" He whispered as he nodded his head towards one of the buildings. "Do I see what?" "Him." He pointed out an area near the doorway of the building. "I think I see something, but I can't tell what it is. Looks like someone or something standing in a mist." "It's him. Can't you see him? He's right there." "Who?" Alicia asked.
"My grandfather. He's standing right there. Stay put."
He got closer, and the image of his grandfather faded away. Exasperated, he turned towards Alicia, saying, "I don't like this. He only shows up when something is wrong." "Does he speak to you?"
He doesn't have to. It's the look in his eyes and the energy he brings when he comes that carries a message.
Alicia was concerned the stress of losing his spiritual mentor Sunday would be having a negative effect on John. He seemed a bit dazed since hearing the news about his trusted friend. It had thrown him off center, and she had the frightening thought that this could somehow be his undoing. She would stay at his side every second going forward, whether he wanted it or not.
"I have to go find the bush. Wait for me there. Be right back."
He moved to a spot behind the building for privacy. What he got was much more than that. He came face to face with his dead grandfather, putting him in a semi-stupor.
"Grandfather, is that you?"
The misty apparition nodded in the affirmative. His words came as if over a great distance, yet he was no more than 8 feet from his grandson as he spoke. "Listen closely, John God, because this is the only time I will talk to you. The one and only time I will hold your face and lift your face up and tell you something. You must look forward, not backward. If the Great Spirit wanted you to live in the past, he would have given you eyes in the back of your head. Do not allow your heart to be painted with the brush of false division. Find your way in all dimensions. You are a spirit of the universe. You are a part of everyone. When you understand this, you can walk the earth like I walked it once. I told you this since you were a baby. You can judge a man by the way he walks. Read the tracks, my boy." The vision faded, and John asked quickly, "What do you mean I'm looking backward? Grandfather, what does it mean?" But no answer came as John found himself speaking to the empty air. Who are you talking to, John?" Alicia asked.
"Probably myself,"
John shrugged. "Yeah, I mean, I only heard your voice and I figured you were on the phone with somebody."
"Maybe I was,"
John said as he stared with empty eyes at the ground and at the sky, as though trying to figure out what happened. John and Alicia drove to the Maricopa County Jail with 3 of the 4 prisoners shackled in the backseat. "Where's Gato?"
"He'll be along if he gets out of the hospital."
"Why is he in the hospital?"
"He thought he could take me. He was wrong."
"He's still alive?"
"He is, but
I don't think he wishes he was." The cartelero stared at the back of John's head, wondering if this was the truth. They pulled up in front of the jail a short time later. Before they got out of the car, John turned in his seat behind the wheel and asked them,
"How can we all speak English if your question?"
The one in the middle seat, nicknamed Loco, answered sarcastically,
Because you ask
questions in English."
"Maybe another reason from you're all from El Norte. I'd say judging from your accents. You're from East LA. You know, I'm going to tell you one more time before we go in there. You help yourselves in a big way if you want to cooperate."
"Yeah, and how long do you think we'll be alive after we do that, Geronimo?"
"Longer than you will in jail. Do you think your patrons will let you live knowing what you know?"
"How do you know what we know?"
"I'm psychic. I really am. Tell him, Alicia."
"Yes, he is all that. Just this morning he told me when I graduated from high school. Out of the blue, he comes out with it, and I thought, damn, how does he do that? I mean, we're talking about something else. He stops in the middle of the conversation, he comes out with it." Acting like he didn't hear a word Alicia said, Loco asked John cautiously,
"If we did know something, and we did what you're saying we should do, how do we not get killed?"
"We can make you all disappear, like you never existed. It's a big world out there, and you can find you a place where nobody will find you, and you'll be living like kings. People will bow down to you."
You have no idea what you're up against, S.A. What you have coming at you is like nothing you ever saw before. Prepare to shit your pants. John said, last time, once you're in there, I cannot help you, no matter how much I want to. Nothing more was said, and they were removed from the car, and they walked to the jail. Alicia did the paperwork necessary to return them as John sought out Billy Rainwater, a shadow wolf. John looked Billy square in the eye. The time may come, and come very soon, when I will have to ask for all my shadow wolf brothers and sisters to stand with me against some evil people. It'll be a life and death matter if it comes to pass. How do my words hit you? Billy responded, I'm here because you helped me get here. Remember the time we got jumped by the wise asses at the basketball finals game? There were 7 of them and 2 of us when you stood with me. Because of you, we walked away straight up. They didn't. I don't know too many of us that can make that happen. I'll be there whenever you need me to be, brother. After they left the building, Alicia sat behind the wheel as John got in on the passenger's side. She sped away, looking in the rear view for any sign of tailing. She didn't see any vehicles, but she did not see the drone that was overhead. Wilson was on the phone miles away with the drone pilot, getting a scouting report from him. What do you got? I got him in the crosshairs with my finger on the trigger. You have eyes on John Goad? Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He's got his girlfriend with him, too. 2 for the price of 1. Can I take the shot? Don't do anything until I say so. Not one hair on that prick's head is harmed until the word is given from me. Do you understand? Are there any other vehicles with him? Negative. Follow them, and only follow. Comprende? Doug Wilson? Could be. Who is this? I'm calling from Mandrell, and that's all you need to know, the voice said over the phone. I have a message for you. What's that? Wilson's word had an uncharacteristic tone, the tone of uncertainty. You've already been told in great detail, Doug. Didn't it tell you our benefactors you don't remember the terms? Is that what you wanted to do? No, it's not necessary. I was hoping you'd say that. When do we begin? When the time is right. Have you lined up your route to the camp? The camp or the cave? Wilson asked. Clean up your issue with Goad first. I believe you're going to do that soon, am I right? Yes. Tighten that situation up and make certain that there was no trail back to the event. 911 mode. No trails left unburned. Got it? Got it. Douglas, if you don't retrieve the device that was passed on to that dead shadow wolf, your world will come apart faster than the speed of thought. Mandrell is not happy about that slipping through your hands. You know why, don't you? He also felt the pressure he did not relish, and he made a mental note to take care of getting back on Mandrell's good side as soon as things settled down. Mandrell was the only part of the whole equation he could not put a label on. He knew this person was highly placed in the government bureaucracy, but that was all he knew about him. That did not sit well with Douglas Wilson. Did not sit well indeed. Chapter 23. The Dead Reporter Talks. John and Alicia pulled up in front of the Tribal Reservation holding facility, and they entered the building quickly. Gathered there were 20 shadow wolves. There were 17 men and 3 women. Noche said, we have 14 more on the move. Where are they? Alicia asked. Some are driving down from the mountains, others from coming up from Flagstaff. All about an hour to an hour and a half out last time I checked. Call them, tell them to go to your place, Noche. Stay off the radio. They should not be coming here. He definitely got eyes on us, maybe more than just a drone would do. John went to an interview room alone to review the flash drive he found in the reporter's hotel room again. What he saw and heard caused him to revisit his initial evaluation of who and what he was going up against. What had initially begun as a business-as-usual series of arrests in the desert south of Phoenix had turned into a series of events that would have international implications. He invited Gato into the room with Alicia and Noche, and he went through the flash drive with them. The voice they all heard on it belonged to the woman investigative reporter who gave a rapid account of people coming to the Arizona desert to conduct jihad in the Phoenix area, Las Vegas, Minneapolis, D.C., and New York. That part blazed in his mind, and the statement that there were many already here preparing for a big attack filled him with dread. He caught a few things that he had missed on the first go-around. She identified 2 people whom he had uncovered as part of the plan. One was Doug Wilson, and the second was a man she didn't name, an attorney high up in the Justice Department, who was special counsel to the president. She spoke of collusion with 2 Mexican cartels and high-ranking government officials in Mexico. The cartels doing business with the jihadis that involved gun running and drug smuggling. They're being well paid with oil money from the Middle East. She named the American and Mexican agents who controlled the distribution of weapons on both sides of the border. She talked of corruption that went into the judicial system, and thought she could produce the names of some powerful elected officials who were heavily involved in the cocaine business, and resulted in a vulnerable situation they'd placed themselves in to be blackmailed. Before the end of her narrative, she told of continuing her investigation of the local law enforcement. Her plan meeting with John go to the next day or so, and she was told he could be trusted. She was praying to God that it was true. It was silent for a few moments as God told Alicia and Noche gathered themselves. John was already there, and then the next Wednesday they just gave all the information he just heard. Gato broke the silence with, "This is not new to me. Been in on this from the grunt level of the cartel, but there's far more she claims going on than we uncovered. If what she's uncovered is true, we've got a big problem with how deep the corruption goes." Noche and Alicia voiced their opinions on what they learned. They seemed stunned by the enormity of what could be hanging over the country was like the land of a crazed hawk on its unsuspecting prey. Reality science is a funny way of selling to a person's mind, giving results for each person involved. Noche's growing reaction was one of dismay and hoping that John had the ability to do what he did best, take down the bad guys. Subdue that threat. Alicia's thoughts were into believing that where they were heading was a place of existential proportions. She understood that what the Islamic extremists were about was destroying the will of anyone who opposed their ideological march to the world caliphate. She began to mentally prepare for what could turn out to be Armageddon. John was already prepared. "Now what do we do?" Alicia asked. "How can we even begin to fight this?" Noche asked. John's phone buzzed and he saw that it was the Sweet Tooth calling. "What do you want, Sweet Tooth?" "John, go. I just got a call from my brother Jimmy, all freaked out and everything. He wanted me to call you, give you a heads up that some Arab guy's gonna blow up the casino where my mom works." "Did he say when it would happen?" "Soon." He just said soon. "Can you do something? This is my mom, man." "I need more information on it." "Good information. I need you and Jimmy to work with me. Can you make it happen?" "Can you do that? You need to tell me, not try to do something else, Tooth." "Yeah, I'll do whatever it takes. That goes without saying. I believe you can save my mother, but I'm worried that you can't save Jimmy." "I can save his ass, but I need him working through this from the inside for my unit. You gotta keep your mouth shut. You can't talk about this to nobody." John drew a heavy breath. "I know this is nothing but terrible for you, but you work with me, keep your brother and your mother alive. Yeah, I'll do everything I can to help stop this. Goes without saying, Jimmy will too." John assured him, "The only people who will know about what you told me are people who I would trust in my life. I'll need to help me stop it from happening." Sweet Tooth said, "Jimmy made me promise I wouldn't tell Mom, but I think I have to so she doesn't wind up working her job there when the shit goes down. I need you to talk with Jimmy and ask if he knows when the big party is set for the desert. I need to know what's going to happen, how many will be there, what sort of weapons. You get him to get me that information. I promise you I can keep your mom safe and prevent them from taking over the casino. And you do what I ask, Sweet Tooth. Gotta be careful I don't blow his cover. Team who works for watching, and a lot of guys like him really close. Can you do it?" I guess. Come with a good reason for my calling him, then I'll do it. His bosses don't want their people to get a lot of phone calls on anything other than business. Stay in close contact with me, Tooth, okay? You understand?" "I got no reason not to. The only person I know I could go to with this, I got no one else." "Hey, listen to me. Do not say anything about this to anyone, not even your mother." "You really mean that? I can't tell her? Come on, man. If you want her, you and Jimmy to still be breathing when this is over, that's exactly what you won't do." "Shit. Okay, I hear you, but this is hard. I know it is, Tooth, but it's gotta be this way. Trust me." Chapter 24. The Deep State Jihadis Attack. Earlier that day, in a Sinaloa compound, some 50 miles south of Nogales, Arizona, Jimmy Begay was locked in conversation with a Middle Eastern man named Ali Malouf, running a plan he had recently been making aware of as a test of his loyalty. "I am having a problem with this, and I know you would have one too. Hey man, this is my mother I'm talking about. I don't know how else to say it." "What is it you wish to say? Why are we talking about it?" "You knew when you signed on that you would be giving up a lot. Why do you think we pay you so much? And now, maybe to you, the outside chance that your mother might get hurt is a chance you're apparently not willing to take?" Jimmy's emotions were coming through strong as he replied cautiously, "I didn't expect this. I don't know how you could think this would be something that any of us would not be worried about. I mean, I know you and me come from different places. That doesn't mean that we don't have similar concerns, doesn't it?" Ali Malouf was the most brutal of the brutal, dedicated totally to bringing down, destroying the great Satan, the USA. He tested anyone near him whom he was forced to use in his great quest. He had no qualms about taking any action necessary to reach his goal. He walked in blood, unimpeded by the chaos and misery he felt were necessary tools to bring down the enemies of his way of life in the service of his God. He drew a pistol and pointed it at Jimmy. "I didn't think that you had these concerns, simple as they are, and so very troubling.
I do not have time for this, and I will ask you a question, which if you don't answer properly, I will kill you. Maluf smiled cunningly, looking through eyes that wore the expression like those of a shark. My question to you is this: Are you a Christian? Jimmy's heart sank into his stomach as he responded with, "No, I haven't been for a long time. We renounce that culture and swear your love and service to Allah. You prove that love and service to Him. Get down on your knees and kneel and surrender to His will. Touch your forehead to the ground and praise Him. Otherwise, you can meet Him in just a few seconds." The jihadi said, looking down at the groveling young man. Without delay, Jimmy obeyed. He knew that what he was doing was violating what he was raised to believe in, but he had to buy some time. His only thought at that moment was for his survival, before asking for forgiveness from the God he had known since he was a child. The only reason Ali Maluf did not kill him was because he needed him. However, that need would not go on for much longer. He knew that many of those who were on his payroll were also doomed because they were nothing more than infidels, at least in his mind. The only infidel he did not have a problem working with was one who saw the world like he did, Doug Wilson. The American agent who believed in, figuratively and literally, dismembering anyone who got in his way. He admired such men, identifying with their strength and power over the weak. Ali Maluf had a small army at his command, an army that could do anything for the right price, anything that could deliver total devastation to any place his leaders would determine appropriate. There's achievement in life that had gotten this far, so goes to the heart of the great Satan, now standing poised to behead this supreme evil. A few minutes later, Jimmy's phone rang and Sweet Tooth spoke hurriedly about his conversation with John Goad. Without using his name. Jimmy's upset came through clearly to his brother, who began to panic. The fear of losing his brother and mother was overwhelming. The call ended on a somber note with a promise to one another that they would be careful and say nothing to anyone other than the Native American lawman. Give it 3 or 4 hours before you call anybody. I gotta think this through and make sure we don't get burned bad. Jimmy, we can't play around with this. It's our mother that's at risk here. A shudder went down Jimmy's spine as the reality slammed him. I'll give you the word when to call that person. You don't say nothing to nobody. You got it? Ali Maluf called Wilson while sitting on the porch of the rambling house he occupied on the Sinaloa compound. Have you made progress, Douglas? So far, so good. Do you have the device of the infidel bitch? No, but we're close. I know it's in either the hands of that Indian or it's in the casino hotel. It will not be around much longer. We got John Goad by the balls. What he does with this is a no-win for him in any way, even if he cooperates. He's painted into a corner he cannot get out of. Whatever direction he goes, he'll be dead. You really have a hard-on for this man, he emphasized after a pause. Don't let it distort your judgment, Douglas. There's no room for error from this point forward. You don't have the luxury of mucking this up, Maluf cautioned. I don't muck things up. I fuck people up. Goad is people, and this is open seas on his kind, buddy. Must be about our business. Talk to you soon. The rogue agent ended the call. He turned to the man standing in the shadows behind him, motioning for him to sit down across from him. What's up? Came the question from the short, balding, middle-aged man as he took a place in a chair directly in front of him. I need to know if you have any idea whether or not Goad is the flash drive couldn't find in the casino. I don't understand why you're asking me this question. You're standing right beside me in the room when we realized there wasn't anywhere we could find it. I don't know where it is either. Our guy says that Goad and the rest of the Indians haven't been around the last few days. He said that you're breathing on that task force group's ass, as the rest of the guys in the assignment a bit rattled. So the casino will be scheduled for demolition as ground zero for the detonation of the dirty bomb as previously planned. The flash drive's got to be fried before it gets into the wrong hands, shall we say. After a little while, it ain't gonna really matter as much, for the immediate future cannot be in the hands of anybody but us. Anybody. What else do you have for me? The reservation is the perfect location for the origin of the radioactive cloud that will spread over the entire southern section of Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe, and Gilbert. If the wind blows right, it'll take out tens of thousands. Hey, the more you take out, the more money you get. What I'm getting, Wilson, is that you are probably going to be filthy rich when this is all over. I assume you'll be disappearing then? Oh, I'm already gone. So you're certain you have all the fireworks properly placed? The packages are placed in a dumpster that won't be until next week, according to my people who've been working there as landscape contractors. All we gotta do now is get the radioactive material in position, and wham, there goes a good part of the Valley of the Sun. I'm gonna have another assignment for you, Wilson leaned forward as he spoke. John Goad. Yeah? I want him taken out. I want him done when he does his shaman bullshit out in the quiet place he does his chanting. I can do that. I'll give you the coordinates of Goad's special place in the desert. go when the sun is setting. It'll be his last sunset. You got it. I want him to suffer, not have a quick death. That's why I want you to take him out while he's doing his ritual. I want his last breath to be of lingering, insidious pain. What is it about him that makes you want to kill him so badly, Walter Preston? That's my secret. You want to tell me your secrets? No. It was pitch black as Kazi and Kumar rolled to the mouth of the cave where Wilson's men had prepared for what was to come for the mother of John Goad. They drove their vehicle into the interior far enough so it could not be seen from the sky or the ground. Amma was blindfolded and her hands were cupped behind her back. She asked weakly, "What do you want to do?" "Depends on your son. If he behaves, he can go back to bed, he can go back to his normal job duties." "What do you want him to do?" "Just the right thing." "What is that?" "He has something we want. We want it very badly, and all he has to do is give it to us, and the world will go back to normal. For all of us, my dear," Kazi assured her. Chapter 25. The Cartel Joins the Jihad. Ali Malouf called the drug lords to his house for a pre-event meeting as the last days of the Great Satan Jihad began. He offered them strong coffee as they sat on the large table in his living room. There were 10 somber-looking men of various ages and sizes assembled in that room with the master jihadi. He greeted them. "I am pleased to tell you that our great effort begins this moment. We are ready to take your neighbors to the north down a path that will end a part of history in which they have dominated for far too long." "Where's the money?" asked one of them, who wore the name Picasso due to his heavy scars and slight disfigurement of his 40-year-old face. "Alright, first things first, Picasso," Malouf answered as he leaned into the table. "First things first." Picasso laughed. "I come first. If you want us to do what you want us to do, the first thing that happens is the money in my hand, right?" "That was never in question, gentlemen, but before anything happens, we have to make sure that we all know what is expected of each of us. Can we proceed?" Malouf was being cautious, knowing he was dealing with men almost as ruthless as him. "The responsibility lies in Arizona. As we planned, Picasso, you and your men will take out the lodge at the Grand Canyon until that glass bridge shatters. And when you get there, everything will be ready for you." "Ready?" Picasso asked in a way that indicated dismay. "Why are you asking me that? You're gonna do nothing we ain't ready for. Who do you think you're dealing with? Camel jockeys from your desert? Bad enough we gotta take orders from your Iranian people." "Hey, that's the deal we made, Picasso. They have to be there for this to get the proper effect. What I want to know from you at this moment is, do you have this clear in your head? Are you certain that you can plant the explosives so they take down what we want taken down? Can you accurately fire a handheld missile? Can this all be done at the time we want it to all happen?" Picasso laughed sarcastically and paused for a few seconds before saying, "Do you really think you need me to ask any of this shit? I'm here to get the money. I wouldn't take it if I had any doubts that this job will be done. So tell me about this Indian cop. What about him? I hear he and his amigos can disappear. I hear he can take people's hats off with his feet. That's what I hear. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. But I can take his hat and his head off at the same time with this." Malouf pointed at the sword leaning against his chair. "I'll handle him and his band of disappearing monkeys, or as the weak-minded insist they be called, Native Americans, so they don't get their feelings hurt by your calling them Indians. What do they call that nonsense? Political correctness?" Several in the group shrugged in response. "Yes, my friends, it is that weakness of the Americans that allows you to do what you do and for me to set up their destruction so easy. We've been doing this for a long time, Malouf, even before it was so easy to do like it is now. But you know, it makes me wonder why they're setting themselves up again for you to take them down again. They don't learn too good," he said almost to himself, but everyone in the room heard him. Malouf mentioned to one of his men sitting in the corner of the room to bring the satchel he was holding in his hand. He did so, and he laid it at Malouf's feet. He nodded at it, then smiled at Picasso while waving his hand towards it, indicating he should come over and pick it up. Inditing he should come over and pick it up. Picasso fixed his eyes on it and waved one of his men over to the bag. The man had it in his hands, he was told, "Count it." The jihadist spoke slowly. "That's half of it. The rest will be there when the job is done, like I agreed." "How do I know that?" Picasso asked. "Are you questioning my word?" "Not necessarily." Malouf took a deep breath, looked at the cartelero intently, and said, "I will need your services again, and maybe even again after this. That's job security, my friend. We'll keep everything where it needs to be for both of us. Yes?" Picasso smiled and said, "We're good." He grunted and arose from his chair and said, "Adios." Malouf smiled back before saying, "By the time 24 hours pass, America's spirit will be so wounded it will not be able to function. You play a smaller but extremely important symbolic part in this plan. Picasso and his men were gone, and Maluf breathed a sigh of relief. At that moment, John Goad's phone rang. His stomach almost left his body as he heard his mother say,
John, I need you to do something for me.
Her voice was so weak, John thought she may have been having a heart attack. Then another voice on the phone said menacingly, Goad, you have something I want, and I have something you want. Let's trade. We have your mother here with us, and she's not going anywhere until we get what you have.
Let me talk to her.
John said stoically as his head spun with fear for his mother. Here she is. She said, do not try to come for me, as the phone was ripped from her hands. Kazi spit the words at John. No code talking, Geronimo, you got that? Speak English. What do you want? John asked, trying to mask his fury. You know what we want. Don't ask stupid questions. Deliver it to us and your mama here can go back home. Don't deliver it. You will never hear her voice again. It's that simple.
You hurt her anyway, and I will take you apart in ways you never thought possible. Understand me, white-eye?
How are you gonna do that when you have no idea who I am? You don't even know that I'm a white-eye for sure, do you?
I know who to look for, and I will find everyone you're with. I will let them watch me peel you. I have a guide who will lead me to you.
A guide? Come on, John, if you had a guide, you would have already come for us.
Tell Wisdom I just told you.
John said in a hoarse whisper. I don't know anyone by that name.
Where do you want me to go?
John asked with a cold anger. I want you to go to hell, but I'll settle for you dropping off that little flash drive at the casino. In 1 hour, go to the Wheel of Power slot machine. Put that puppy up on top of it in the middle. And walk on. Don't even look back to eyeball who picks it up. Got me?
That is okay, it's never gonna be, asshole.
Go on. But now, Johnny boy, that does sound like a threat. You're not in a position to threaten me right now.
I'm talking about right now.
All you have is right now, Geronimo. No one has tomorrow, not even you. Deliver the package and your mama will be free to go home.
So I do that, then I'm gonna find my mother.
Yes, that is the part I haven't mentioned yet. Then mention it, John demanded.
If we don't hear or see anything that tells us we can copy the digital for 48 hours, she'll be calling you from a public phone to pick her up. If there's any indication you have a copy, you got a problem.
I'm sorry, your mother has a problem. Are we together on that?
Why should I believe you'll keep your word?
John's mind was racing, trying to get some sort of clue from this guy as to where he was and where they had his mother. He said,
how do I know that I know what you're talking about? I mean, really?
I know you have the flash drive, John, and I don't want to hurt your mother, so man up and deliver on this, and your life will go back to normal.
How do I contact you after I do what you want me to do? I need more assurance that you'll keep in your deal. I don't think this asking much, do you?
Just get your ass to the casino and do your thing. Everything will be back to normal. That's it. He hung up. John gathered Alicia, Noche, and began explaining to them about the conversation regarding his mother. Alicia gasped at what she heard. Noche joined in John's fury. Alicia put her arm around the big wall man and said, what do we do now? The sons of bitches need something serious on their heads. What the hell are they doing dragging your mother into this? She must be scared out of her wits. John handed the flashlight to Alicia.
Can you get a copy this fast?
She nodded, handing it to Tonio. He was a Shadow Wolf tech whiz who carried an emergency tech kit within his standard gear. John's phone rang. It was Sweet Tooth, who said in an anxious voice, John, go. Jimmy just called me a minute ago. He dropped off some shit at a cave. He saw an old woman who thinks is your mom.
At least he thinks it's my mother.
He was probably running the money with this. It would be a big break. Thank you, grandfather, he whispered quietly. What about your grandfather?
And I was just thinking out loud. Why?
John replied quickly, almost wishing he hadn't mentioned his dead grandfather. People are gonna start thinking I'm crazy, he thought. Because Jimmy said when he unloaded some stuff at the cave, he saw an old man, who looked like one of us, who was passing back to the cave. He almost automatically followed him, and there, a short woman, he saw a woman sitting by herself, looking really afraid. Her hair was all messed up, and she was only wearing a nightgown. She knows who your mother is. She's friends with our mom.
Can you talk to her?
John asked. No, he didn't get a chance.
One of the guys who was there noticed where he was and told my brother to get out, and he did. And he called me. Can Jimmy help us find the cave? John asked. Yeah, he can. He told me to tell you that he can meet up with you and lead you there. Okay, Tooth, you did good. So did Jimmy. And tell him to meet me by the Riggs Road exit off I-10 about an hour 15. Tell him to pull off to the desert and stay out of sight from the highway. With a concerned tone obvious in his voice, Sweet Tooth commented, "It sounds like some really bad shit, John. Really bad shit." What do you mean? I'll let Jimmy tell you. He's got a crowded head right now, full of stuff you need to know, but he's got to tell you himself. Okay, Tooth, stay low. Be available in case I need something in a quick minute. You good? Yeah, I'm good. John smiled as Alicia planted the flash drive back in his hand. She then placed a second one in his pocket and winked as she did. He said, "Let's get everyone in the briefing room. I'm sort of tell, so knock everyone on their ass." The head count of all the Shadow Wolves was 38, including 4 women. One of them was Alicia. They sat silently, patiently waiting for John's words on what was coming. He explained point by point, bringing them up to the moment. "Any questions?" he asked as he finished talking. "How do we get the word out to the feds if we don't know which one of them we can trust? I want to go with the U.S. Marshal, Eric Kahn. I believe he can be trusted. Beyond him, the only other law enforcement had to trust the sheriff. We can't draw him in here because the DOJ is over his ass. That's the way he handles the illegals. He's got appointed monitors everywhere, calling over his department, watching him." "Lay it out, John. Let's get ready to roll," the Shadow Wolf called out. John smiled back at him. "Right now, I need 8 of you to get ready to meet up with me in the desert near I-10 and Riggs Road in an hour. The rest of you just need to stand ready for what could be a major takedown. Gotta get a better idea of what our first run is going to need." He scanned the room and was thankful when he saw everyone dressed in the silence, all in black, ready to blend in with the night. He motioned to Alicia to come with him and they left for the casino. 20 minutes later, they were parked in the casino lot and perused for any sign of who would be picking up the flash drive. There was no indication. John departed the car and walked cautiously towards the casino with his Sig Sauer 9mm in his hand, ready to fire at anyone who might be laying in wait for him. Alicia was out of the car and holding her weapon, covering her lover's back. As she saw John enter the casino, she holstered it and reached for her extending baton, which she whipped to its full extension. She swiped it using a pattern she learned from her Baguazhang teacher 3 years before. It was one of her favorite hand-to-hand weapons, and she was very skilled with it. John walked through the casino's main foyer, stopping occasionally at machines, pretending he was checking them out. After a few minutes, he strolled up to the wheel of power and leaned on it with the flash drive clenched in his hand. He placed it on top, in the middle, and after looking around, he backed away from the machine and turned towards the door. He focused on the exit, and he left the main room and eventually the building. His eyes swept the parking lot movement, and at the movement he saw was Alicia going out of the car. He couldn't see from the distance he was, knew that her weapon was at the ready. 15 minutes later, when they rolled off the I-10 into the desert, they waved towards where the Shadow Wolves were parked. Noche was there leading the group. He said, "Big John, we're loaded for bear, but we hope the bear ain't 9 feet tall." He chuckled. Concern was not difficult to hear in his voice, despite his attempted humor. "Alright, everybody. We're waiting for somebody who's coming here and get some information we're going to need this night." As he ended the sentence, a dark car pulled off the road into the desert, driving towards them. 2 of the pack leveled their weapons at the car. There was a good deal of dust as it skidded to a stop. The door opened slowly, and Jimmy Bagai got out with his hands raised. John quickly said, "Okay, everybody, relax. He's friendly. He's who we've been waiting on." Bagai walked to the room and said, "I'm Jimmy Bagai. I need to talk with John Goad. What do you have to say, Jimmy?" He related the dire plan he had been made aware of by Ali Malouf a few hours before, and he went on to talk about the woman who he believed was Amma Goad, where she was being held captive. Did she look like she was hurt? Jimmy didn't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there was no reason to lie about it. "Yeah, she looks like shit, man. I don't mean no respect, John Goad, but she don't look too good right now." John said nothing, but his wheels were turning. Chapter 26. U.S. Marshals versus the Deep State. Noche looked at Jimmy over and thought for a few seconds before asking, "John, with the shitstorm about to blow over, I'd say we need to talk with somebody and let them know what's about to happen. Who do we trust, Noche? Who can we get this to, especially when we're talking about the feds?
We don't know who's involved with this, and we tell the wrong person our asses are grass. Even no one doing anything about anything to shut this shit down. I say we put our hopes in the U.S. Marshal. You feel like he can be trusted? You feel Eric Kahn is that trustworthy? Why? Give me a reason. Your gut, Big John. You know about that stuff. The gut. Not completely comfortable with the thought, recalling his grandfather's words about a man's tracks as testimony to his character made John more inclined to do it. He said, "Alright, Noche, I'm feeling the same way about this, but if I had to hear your reasons too, I'll reach out to him right now." John went to his phone for the Marshal's number and he hit it. Marshal Kahn answered on the third ring. He listened in silence to what John had to say. When the big lawman was done, it was just quiet on the other end before he spoke. "John, if you'd have told me this 5 years ago, I told you this was pure fantasy, stirred up by internet conspiracy theorists. How's this hit you now, Marshal?" "I no longer think that way, and furthermore, I think that believing this stuff can't happen for the liquid brainers inside that Washington Beltway. That's what I think, John. What do you want me to do with this?"
Pass it on up the line.
"To who, John?" This stuff started coming to the surface with that fast and furious gun running shit. And although there was evidence staring everyone in the face, nothing happened with it. On top of that, you had cops all over the country being taken out with the weapons given to the cartels by our government.
Yeah, we know that, Marshal. My problem is sitting here with this information, not being able to do anything with it. That's why I'm calling you.
Thank you, John. Where are you now, John? Getting ready to take this to the next level. I better join you before you take all those bastards before I can get some pokes at them. I think it'll be a real good thing for you and your folks to be deputized by me. Yeah, it might definitely be that, Marshal. Make a big difference going forward with what probably lies ahead. So when do we get deputized? I'll swear you all in when I get to where you are. And that's... where is that? John gave him directions and the call ended. He turned to Noche and said, "I sure as shit hope you got a gut that's half as good as mine." "Yeah, me too." John looked at Noche and shook his head in mock frustration with Noche's nonchalance. At the same time, he believed that his friend's instincts were right on the money. "I think it's time to get the rest of the pack here. Make the call, Noche." "You want him here immediately?" "Yeah, immediately." Within 25 minutes, the rest of the crew were pulling up in their caravan of Hummers and SUVs. John briefed them. Half-hour later, Eric Kahn came to the group alone, which surprised John. "Marshal, are you doing this without your deputies?" John asked. "I think that's best. Besides, all of you are now deputies. Raise your right hands and repeat after me." He administered the oath of office to all the Shadow Wolves. Chapter 27. Shadow Wolves fight for America's future. They came together as John explained the strategy he felt would render the best result in rescuing his mother. Eric Kahn commented, "John, I think that maybe you might have too much of an emotional investment here, and you should run this by a few of us before we agree on where to go." "Yeah, Marshal, we don't have time to hand-wring. We gotta move now. If we go in shooting, there's a good chance your mom will die."
"We ain't going in shooting, Marshal. We're just going in. We'll be back then before they realize what happened,"
John assured him confidently. "How so?" Marshal Kahn wasn't buying it. "I mean, I know something about you all, and from what it is I do know, there's no doubt that a silent way will be best, but I can't see how that gets done when you're sneaking up on men with heavy weaponry in a cave. We're holding hostages."
"Let me show you how."
John knew his people in the old ways. "Okay, let me see it." Gato had been silent through most of the conversation until he commented, "John, I know you guys are good, but you have to keep in mind that what you're going up against is some of the best special forces types in the world. They might sense us coming."
"No, they won't."
"How do you know that?"
"We won't let them. They won't know what hit them until they won't be feeling anything anyway."
Jimmy Maguire rode with John, Alicia, Gato, and Eric Kahn. Noche and the pack followed in their vehicles, all running silent and dark as they moved slowly but directly towards the cave. Jimmy helped by using the coordinates he had in his phone GPS. The night was intensely dark with a cloud cover enhancing the darkness. In that moment, Ali Malouf with his men and Picasso leading the Carteleros just crossed the porous border west of Nogales. Following a GPS, they started slowly through the desert to their usual location some 60 miles north to one of the most remote areas in that part of Arizona. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. The convoy was larger than the previous convoys with good reason. This one was indicative of what they had been preparing for since the arrival of the jihadists in Mexico several years earlier. weaponry was becoming more and more sophisticated since the fall of Benghazi, which led to the almost open-door cooperation between them and some in the government. Confidence within their ranks had grown exponentially as the caliphate grew in Syria and Iran due to the American retreat, as they saw it. They were indeed the beneficiaries of having friends in high places. "Have you heard back from the cave contingent?" Maloof asked. "No." "What about Bagai?" "Nothing." John's group continued moving slowly towards the cave, and when they were less than 2 miles out, they stopped and gathered in a circle, again discussing the approach. John said, "Remember the snake clusters around this part of the desert. You know how pissed off a snake can get if you interrupt their getting some. Step carefully, especially near the cave." During mating season, hundreds of rattlers gathered in certain parts of the desert to mate, and they were going towards one of those places. The group did a quiet prayer chant and a short war dance in place, quietly chanting. They made for a strong heart as they went to battle. Use the knife first if you can. Silent guns second. Lucia, you got the baton? Always. You know that better than anyone, John. They checked the weapons one more time, went back to their vehicles. When they reached a point that was less than a mile from the cave, they left the vehicles and fanned out across the desert floor. They blended into the desert night. Their feet made no sounds until their bodies are lifting their energy upward. All part of what made the Shadow Wolves so deadly. They were like the ninja. No one ever sees them coming, but you'll see them when they've been there and gone. Half the team went to the right, John's side went to the left. The Marshal, Gato, and Jimmy ran back with the vehicles at John's request because of the need for stealth. They had no experience with being as silent in approaching a target. They secreted themselves in the brush a short way from the vehicles and waited for a word from someone in the raiding party. John drew to within 200 feet of the entrance to the cave. He was twice as close as the others in the teams. Alicia started creeping towards John's position with her MAC-10 slung across her back and her Sig Sauer nestled in her right hand. "Wait." "I see 2 of them. They look like they're guarding the entrance in prone positions. I'm surprised they haven't seen us." "Me too." John said, "I smell a rat here." "What do you mean?" "I think there's a good chance they have night goggles. That makes it very easy to see at this range. They can have booby traps all around the area. They'd be expecting us to step on one. Maybe they're hoping that'll happen. So what do we do?" "Give me a minute." John whispered into the headset mic. "Noche, bring your ass into the pack with you towards me. At 200 feet from the cave entrance. At 1 o'clock you approach. Stay low. You'll be using night vision." Noche responded immediately. "Makes you think differently." "Not certain of that. We're waiting for you. You see them in the cave?" "Yeah, I'm looking at 3 men and they're moving stuff around. Looks like wooden crates." "Any sign of my mother?" "No." "How do we take them?" Noche asked. John pointed towards the cave. "The 2 guards lying on the ground on either side of the entrance. To get them from behind. I think his ass was planting a booby trap near the cave entrance." Noche said, "Jerry here almost got himself bit by a rattler he damn near stepped on. Threw his hat on the son of a bitch and grabbed it before he could strike. It's in his backpack, pissed off and ready to hurt the next thing it sees. So we talked about it and said we might make a prison of those who grabbed your mother." "I got an even better idea. Let's drop in on one of the boys who are lying on the ground pulling guard duty." "How do we do that, John?" Alicia asked. Noche and the 2 young wolves are taking a wide circle to the right, coming behind the mountain above the cave. Do the same to the left. When we get in place, we'll drop the snake on the one who's below them. That should set off all kinds of pandemonium. It felt right to John. "That's what I was thinking." Goad smiled, knowing he was about to do something to make for a lifetime memory. They set out, moving cautiously and as silent as the snake they were carrying. One of the men who was inside the cave came out and his voice carried through the desert. "Everything good out here?" "Yeah, nothing moving. I like that." The other laughed. John thought, "I like watching him. I'll shove the snake down your throat." Noche and his team were there and in place before John and Alicia arrived. "We're ready," came the whispered message over the earphone.
Jerry brought his rattler out of the backpack slowly. The snake was ready, its rattlers were buzzing as he tossed onto the guard 10 feet below. As expected, a scream emanated in the night as he was bitten twice by the furious reptile. 2 men ran out of the cave, rifles in hand, asking, "What the hell happened? Why are you screaming?" John jumped the other guard in a second and cut his throat from ear to ear. Notion his team finished what the snake had started by capping both men on their side of the cave. 2 more men came running out, firing their guns wildly. Alicia shot 2 of them. John took out the one who had come with the man who had been bitten by the snake. He was silently into the cave, looking left and right for his mother. When she did come to view, he was being held upright by Kazi Kamir, his hands pressed against her head. "Well, Geronimo, we finally meet," regarded John with caution, focusing intently on him. He felt that because he had held the big lawman's mother, the reaction from him would be foolish and emotional. And if he could kill him, the rest of them would be confused, easy targets. Why don't you make it easy on yourself and let her go?" "Well, that's not gonna happen," he replied confidently. "I guess some more are gonna die this night. I'm fighting something for you in the eventuality." "Yeah, what's that?" Kazi pulled Amago towards him and kept the gun to her head. "What have you prepared for me and now your mother as we leave this troubled world?" "I did my rounds in pig's blood and also my knife. You understand, don't you?" John was hoping to somehow cause him an emotional jolt so he would make a mistake. Giving John the opening he needed. An old man moved between him and Kazi. It startled Kazi enough to loosen his grip on Amma, and she collapsed out of his arms and fell forward, giving John the opening he needed. He leapt across the distance between Kamir and himself, like a panther in the dark. Kazi dropped his gun, but regained his composure, pulling out a knife to meet the incoming Native American lawman. John saw this man was a well-trained fighter who was better than most men he'd fought before. He swiped at John with his dagger, holding it with the scabbard up and the blade down, resting against his forearm. This was a dangerous foe. John was dangerous too, and he was holding a blade as well. They circled, facing one another across a 5-foot distance. John swiped the air in front of him. Kazi parried the move as he gauged the speed and technique. Amagod called out, "John, remember the old ways, the old ways." Kazi swiped again, and this time he cut into John's jacket. His confidence grew as he proceeded. "Do not worry, Mother Goad. I will make certain you follow your son to eternity, right after him." "Pig's blood, asshole!" John whispered as he moved around 45 degrees to the right of Kazi. This distracted the Persian enough to give John the opening he needed to move in and strike. Drawing blood from Kazi's hand, which tried to evade the whirling pattern of the blade. Kazi looked down at the huddled body of John's mother and threw a kick that landed a glancing blow on her upper arm. He had hoped that move would infuriate John so he would do something stupid and get stabbed. It almost worked as John lunged for him. Losing his footing, he fell forward just under Kazi's stabbing move. Kazi dove on top of the fallen lawman, his blade coming towards John's throat. John rolled, sweeping the Persian, exposing Kazi to another cut. "How's that pig's blood, asshole? Is it coursing through your veins? Maybe even pissing off the Prophet?" "The Prophet has a special delivery for you." He lunged at John's throat with his knife point. John made a ghost move, evading the thrust, answering with a deep stab to the Persian's throat, killing him. He dropped to the ground on his way to meet Allah. Alicia and John rushed over to Amma's side, asking if she was okay. She was. Then she smiled at her son and said, "I saw your grandfather in your movements, John." "Well, why don't you leave some of these fellas for me to put a hurt on?" the Marshal uttered as he walked into the cave. John smiled. "It's the Indian way, Marshal. Don't take it personal." Now this one did, pointing at the dead Persian laying in a pool of blood. Jimmy Bagai walked in and looked around. "You guys don't play." No one responded. Nothing needed to be said, and they all understood that. "What now?" Alicia asked. "Jimmy, do you think the group down south will be up and running by now?" John asked. "Yeah, I think they're up by now. Or they're close to it. They're coordinating the attack on the big Satan at this get-together. If they get this running, they'll do a lot of damage to this country from east coast to west coast, just like that." He snapped his fingers in time. "Jimmy, tell the Marshal and Gato here everything you know about what the Arabs are doing, what they're gonna do, and when they're gonna do it." Jimmy explained what he knew and then what he thought they were gonna do as part of it.
Made some notes, which he wrote in a code he invented in case it was discovered. They're gonna blow up the Mall of America near Minneapolis tomorrow during the peak shopping hours, around noon. And they're gonna hit the Statue of Liberty after that. Then they're gonna do something at the Sears Tower in Chicago. This is heavy shit, man. Way too heavy for me.
But it wasn't until your mother might be in danger you came forward with this, was it, Jimmy? John said accusingly.
No, I was trying to figure out a way to let you know so we could avoid another 9/11. They were watching it real close in the training camp in Mexico. I wasn't sure about using my phone even. I don't think they trusted me. I don't think they trust anybody without a prayer rug. He produced a crucifix from under his shirt. They treat these things like a vampire would treat them. Khan listened and then said resolutely, I have no choice but to trust someone back east to put this fire out before they eventually take down the whole civilized world. Trouble is, with the folks who are calling the shots back there, we might just be pissing in the wind by letting them know. Or even worse, if we tell the wrong people, they'll send a drone to gun our asses down before they go ahead and blow up this whole country and our entire civilization. I guess I have no choice but to trust someone who can defuse it to the point of stopping it. What and who? John wondered if the attacks could be stopped because the law enforcement network has been compromised, and who knew who was on the Arabs' payroll. Right on up to the top, doubt filled his heart. We have to clean this mess up before we head out, John, Khan said, looking at the bodies. John said, I guess I have a shit fit over what's happening, but I think we might need to bring Armando into this, to handle this. John pointed at the bodies. I think it might be a good thing to tell him you need help instantaneously and grab us to help you with this conflict. Conflict? Looks like World War III was fought here. I think it might be the beginning of that, John said. Gato said, I think between Jimmy, Marshall, Khan, and me, we can piece together how to deal with what we need to get to the right people. What you're saying is in line with what I'm thinking. Who the hell is this guy? He's good. Long story, Marshall. He can be trusted. Gotta get my mother to take care and kept in a safe spot until I get back. I'll take her to the hospital and stay with her there. If you don't keep her, where should we go that will be safe? To my place. We should be safe there. Those assholes don't know where I live. Sometimes even I don't know where I live. Here's the keys. He tossed to Alicia. Are you okay to walk to one of the cars? Wait a minute, I need to go get it. She realized the vehicle was still parked out in the desert. It'll take me a few minutes. Amma sat against the cave wall, shouted to Alicia, and she was feeling well enough to wait those few minutes. Alicia got the key to one of the other vehicles and arranged with those wolves to ride with Noche. He then took off into the desert night towards the vehicle. John kneeled down and put his arm around his mother. Are you sure you're okay, Mom? Please tell me for anything but. I gotta finish this, and that's why. Amma stopped him mid-sentence. I know that, John. You go and do what needs to be done. Be careful. I cannot lose you too. Please, John, be careful. She looked at him, imploring through tearing eyes as he smiled back with a warmth that only she could put in his heart. That warmth was soon replaced by cold fury as he made ready for the biggest battle he had ever fought. He saw a phone lying on the ground a few feet from him, buzzing with an incoming call. He answered it silently. It was Wilson, who said quickly, We're on our way to meet up with the Mexican contingent. You stand by until I call you to come there. We're getting the grand plan into action. Your whole world is about to change, so get ready. Got that? John responded with a guttural yeah. End of the call. Alicia had the vehicle in front of the cave. She and John assisted Alma into the back seat, which was a more comfortable place for her. He watched and waved as they pulled away from where he was standing, heading for what he hoped would be safe ground. Chapter 28. The Saudi White House Jihadist Plan. The convoy of vehicles rolling through the desert from the south moved along under the cover of night with the precision of the military unit that it was. A military unit led by a radical jihadi, composed of a mixture of well-trained Islamists and cold-blooded cartel soldiers. Ali Malouf dialed his phone, trying to reach Wilson, but the call did not go through. He was on fire with anticipation of the coming events, which he felt would change history itself, bringing down the great Satan, raising the black flag of jihad wherever the American flag once flew. What had happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, France, California, and Florida was about to happen throughout the entire USA, doing a death blow not only to America, but the West itself. They have no idea what is coming, and they are totally unprepared for it, he thought. For all throughout the USA, the jihad has established people in the professions, thanks to a more than willing administration in Washington. As it unfolds, ultimately culminating in a post-bomb attack, the Americans will be fighting one another in the streets for food, and and they'll be doing our job for us. He smiled, brought on by a sense of impending victory on a scale never seen before. John was outside the cave talking with Marshal Khan about what they should do to try to prevent the attacks already rolling their way. He said, according to what I'm hearing from Jimmy Bagai, the plan is to attack our cultural icons across the country suddenly and synchronized, but he has no specific details other than what we got from reporters' personal notes I told you about. It's along the exact same lines, and what he brings to the table is good info. Gato backs up from his perspective. He looked closely at the Marshal, trying to get a sense of what he was thinking. He was surprised at what he heard him say. I don't think we can hand this off to anyone we would ordinarily report it to, at least not yet.
Because they don't have enough detail?
John was puzzled. Because we don't know who we can trust, John.
I get that, Marshal. You have to have a network big enough to get something started on this. Do you have that?
I can't run it off the flagpole to any of the federal agencies. I don't have a good feeling about how deep it goes. My sense is there's an awful lot of money being passed around to people in high places. Everyone this president has brought in. And the other problem, John, I don't have a clue as to who might be on the payroll here in Arizona.
You mean there's no one you can go to with this?
John was getting hit by something he already knew but didn't want to admit was as real as it was turning out to be, and he was furious. Yeah, that's about it, Marshal Khan said. Never thought anything like this could happen. It's unbelievable that we are even having this conversation.
I don't know how you can work for those people.
What people? Khan regarded the big lawman, a bit startled by his outburst.
You know what and who I'm talking about. The president is hand puppet attorney general. My gut is that all this comes right back to them, on their feet.
There was fire in his eyes as he unloaded on the Marshal.
How does a man like you work for those people anyway?
Khan took a deep breath and said, I don't work for him.
Then who is it you work for, Marshal? I know that you know, probably better than me, who are the people in the administration. They've seated the government with Muslim Brotherhood members who hate this country. He's opened the borders and everybody and his uncle have come in. We don't know who or where they are. We've lost control, and that's exactly what he wants. This great halfway father who was in D.C. has released people from Gitmo, went right back into the battlefield, killing my brothers in arms, this very day.
The big lawman paused for a moment.
For what? He traded them for one soldier who deserted his post, and now people who thought he'd been taken by the enemy killed, trying to find and rescue him. He lets these heartless scumbags out of Gitmo to kill more of our soldiers.
Marshal Khan reacted angrily. The country, John. I work for the country. Doesn't matter whose ass is sitting in the Oval Office, they come and go, but the country remains. John thought about the response and was still searching for an answer to this dilemma. His trust in Khan had not waned, but he could not truly understand how anyone of integrity could rationalize a way to continue to be part of the government during that time frame. Felt as if he had hit a stone wall. We're sitting out here with this info and have nowhere to go with it. It makes no sense. He paced like an angry tiger. Looking left, the big lawman tried to walk his way to a place of understanding. The more he thought, the more frustrated he became. How could it be happening here in America? Had everything he held in his personal beliefs been knocked to the ground, but he just stood by watching? He didn't remember ever seeing anything quite like this, and here it was, actually happening. He felt helpless to prevent what he knew was going to befall the country in the next few hours. There was nowhere to turn. No one who held the national trust could be counted on without doubt. It was mind-blowing. We can't wait on this, John. We have to roll the dice and trust somebody. Khan's words voiced his decision.
Marshal, the only thing I can say is, you gotta trust your gut on this.
Let someone know who you feel can initiate something to stop what's coming. I don't see any other way on this. John trusted the system less than anyone he knew. He understood the grim reality born in waiting too long before trying to do something.
Okay, I'm gonna pull out the pin that could easily get out of control and come back to have dire consequences to bite us all in the ass.
Consequences for who?
For the ultimate and only tyranny failsafe that we have in this country.
I'm not sure I'm following you. Khan took John by the arm and guided him away from the others. This is for you and you alone to hear. I wish there was another way to do this, but there isn't, so here goes. She took a deep breath. There's a group of command officers within the military and other places who regard us as a nation, and who for the last 5 years or so have been doing things under the radar, protecting us from the enemy within. Khan smiled slightly. Go ahead. Marshal Khan went on. The only reason I know about any of this is because of what I did in military intelligence before I became a marshal. The current administration started asking strange questions of career people and national security. When most of them started getting fired, this group formed and coalesced naturally. It wasn't hard to read the writing on the wall. Those sons of bitches that wove their way into the office are in the process of unraveling the fabric of this country. These people, me included, have no problem doing what must be done to them. It's kind of what I have going on here with my Shadow Wolf brothers and sisters. It's exactly what we're wrestling with, John emphasized. Khan was feeling a bit better about his decision to let John in on the group. These are not Boy Scouts. These are people who, if they were found out and prosecuted, they'd be hung for treason. The only reason you're hearing this is because there's no other way to prevent what seems to be coming at us. And I use the word treason because this is in the same spirits of the treasonous acts performed by Revolutionary War patriots. He was telling John his most closely guarded secret. And the only reason he was doing so was because of the desperate position they were in. Eric Khan was a sterling keeper of secrets, and relating this one did not rest easy with him. At that moment in time, he was betting everything he had on the belief that John was the man he thought he was, and hoping he was right for doing so. He knew beyond a doubt that what he did next and whom he did it with could have dire consequences, but there were no other options. Khan continued resolutely. I won't tell you any names of the members of this group. I can't tell you. He dropped his eyes and looked back up at John, who was 4 inches taller than him. He smiled and turned to the night as he dialed his phone. Come with me, John. I'm going to need you to talk with somebody. We'll be back in a few minutes, John said to the group. Better get yourselves ready for the next adventure. They'll make this one look like a walk in the park. As he stepped away with Marshal Khan, he saw them inspecting their gear, taking stock of what they had left or needed. Khan was talking with somebody quickly, laying the information he had, and identifying John to the person on the other end as someone who could be trusted. He handed the phone to the big lawman and nodded an indication as he could speak. What followed was an accounting of everything he could recall from the reporter's recorded notes, the story that Jimmy told him, what Gato said as well. The man on the other hand asked to speak with Jimmy and Gato, so the phone went back to Marshal Khan. In a few minutes, John, Gato, and Jimmy came trotting back to Khan. John explained to both they needed to tell everything they knew to the man on the other end. Gato asked cautiously, who's on the other end? I can't tell you that. Considering the situation, I recommend you give him what you have. He's one of us, Gato. I can vouch for that. Gato nodded and took the phone. He relayed most of what he already told John and handed the phone back to the marshal, handed it to Jimmy, saying, talk to this man. Who is he? The guy was fearful that if he said the wrong thing to the wrong person, his mother and brother could get killed as a result. He eyed the phone before he slowly put it to his ear, looking like he was afraid it was going to bite him. He studied John's face and understood that he could be trusted on this, and relayed everything he knew. He was done doing that. He handed the phone to the marshal. The call ended, and they rejoined the group of their vehicles. Noche asked in his usual stoic manner, I wonder who it is going to clean up that mess. Beyond his head was the bodies strewn about him. We don't have time to deal with it right now. There's more important things laying ahead of us. Besides, they don't know the difference. I don't think time matters to them anymore. But whoever has to come to the crime scene and do the cleanups, they'll have a pretty nauseating job on their hands. Looks like two of them messed their pants. Great observation, Noche. I think we better bring Armando into this. Marshal, I need you to call him and say you need us, and ask us for assistance. He didn't have any time to do anything else. I knew that. Where do I go with him? He starts wanting details. Make up something good. He's no dummy. Keep the conversation short. Just say we have to finish up something. You don't have time to explain it now that you deputized us. Now that there's liability from him. John called the rest of the pack and asked that they come to meet up with him 10 miles south of the cave. He gave them the exact coordinates. Perky got on the phone and told John, I got a call from Bellamy asking for a 10-7 on Alicia. His sister thought he saw her pushing some older woman to a wheelchair in the emergency room. She said she couldn't find them when she got back to her station and wanted to offer her help if she needed it. What'd you tell him? Told him to call you. What'd he say then? He said he didn't want to get you upset at it being your mother-in-law, so check with Alicia about what was going on. Thanks, Perky. I got it. Bellamy went to the hospital where Alma Goad was taken. While driving there, he was on the phone with Special Agent Wilson. You told him, I want you to get to the old woman and take her out. Find a way to do the same to Goad's girlfriend. You got that, Bellamy? Yep. Then I want you to call Goad and tell him that his mother and lady were killed and anything was done by the cartel. Oh yeah? I want that son of a bitch so messed up that he comes out of his skin and does something really stupid. You good with that? Of course. 50 miles south of Phoenix, the Islamic Jihad Mexican cartel caravan arrived at the place where they were to have their ceremonial celebration. It was the last night for what they planned to be the beginning of the end of Western civilization and the rise of the Islamic Caliphate. They set about erecting their tents and starting up the generators. They put out security on all 4 points, protecting the site from any surprise threat. The mood was intense at the same time, and the coming hours bring the beginning of the end of the Great Satan, and be part of the cause of it happening. Allie eyed the crew as they moved quickly in the darkness, setting up a scene that would be a bizarre mixture of reveling and barbarous execution. As the generators began their purr, the lights broke through the desert night, creating shadows onto the cacti and bushes that surrounded them. Suddenly, he realized he had not heard from the man he had sent north to the cave with weapons and ammunition. He pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed Jimmy's number. Jimmy Beguy's phone rang. Uh-oh. What's wrong? John's focus was immediately on him after hearing Jimmy's reaction to the phone call he was receiving. Jimmy waved at John, signaling the need for silence. Yeah, what do you want, boss? Malouf asked, where are you at this moment? I'm on my way back. Where are you now? The jihadi demanded. I'm not sure, but I know I'm heading your way. I gotta fix a flat. Hope my spare's good. How are things in the cave? It was good when I left. How long ago was that? About 20 minutes or so. I should be back up and running within 15 minutes on my way again. That's good. And Ali Malouf hung up. What's that? John asked, pointing at the phone. That was Malouf. I got the feeling that he senses something is heading this way. He's a freaky guy. He seems to be ahead of people. He used to think he can read me like a book sometimes, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's right about something heading his way. I hope he's not ready for it. Something like... John said it. Hell's headed his way. We're coming, and hell's coming with us. Jimmy laughed. Isn't that a line from that movie about Wyatt Earp? Yeah, of course, Marshall Khan interjected. None other. Seems like you know your movies, boy. I do. Don't you go thinking this is some sort of movie plot, okay? I understand that, but you know how Hollywood always takes something bad and makes it worse? John said, this is badder than worse. Let's not get caught up in that shit. He looked at the carnage in and outside the cave and made it obvious that the look in his eyes was going to get a lot worse before it got any better. Let's go, gang. They loaded up into their vehicle convoy and headed south into the middle of the desert on the blackest of nights. Not one of them knew if they would live to see the sunrise. Bellamy entered the hospital from a side door and walked quickly towards the emergency room, arriving as Alma, slumped in the wheelchair, was being taken to the ICU. He dropped into a chair and picked up a newspaper that was sitting on the seat next to him. He observed Alicia going in with her, and a few moments later come back out with her phone to her ear, walking towards the hospital security office. He followed an orderly into a storage closet. He raised his weapon that was already sporting a silencer and fired, killing the unsuspecting man. He dumped the body into a clothes basket, threw some clothes on top of it, and quickly threw on a set of blue scrubs he found on the shelves over his clothes. He scanned the area for surveillance cameras. As he exited the closet, he found none as he moved, searching for Alma Goad. It didn't take long before he had his target in sight. He moved to her bedside and pulled the curtain around the injured woman's bed. "Can you get me some water?" she asked weakly. "Oh, you won't be needing anything like that." His words were interrupted as the curtain was pulled open by a nurse. "What are you doing here?" she asked as he signaled her with a finger to his lips to shut up and close the curtain. Pointing the gun at her, he said, "Shut your mouth and nobody gets hurt, okay?" He put the weapon to the back of the nurse's head and prepared to take his shot. Before he could finish, She fainted, falling to the floor and dropping the tray she was holding. A voice cried out, "What happened?" With the curtain being drawn back, Bellamy started loudly. She just fainted, pointing at the fallen nurse as he began to walk out of the room with the gun tucked into his shirt. A fatal mistake. Alicia arrived with her weapon in hand and a security officer behind her. "What are you doing here, Belle?" she demanded when she saw the look of terror on Alma's face as she pointed at the rogue task force member with trembling fingers. His scrub shirt fell open as he drew his weapon. The silencer raised up in her direction, and everything fell into place. 2 quick rounds from Alicia's Sig Sauer put on an end to the Judas in their ranks as he fell dead at her feet. Chapter 29, the final chapter, Ghost Warriors. On the Las Vegas Strip were 3 separate groups of well-trained jihadis, poised in hotel rooms, ready to strike 3 casinos at the same time with explosives and rifles. A team of Track Khud trained jihadis was in position near the glass bridge of the Grand Canyon, with rocket launchers ready to demolish that structure. At the same time, a large truck was parked on Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, New York, less than 1 mile from the bridge. 2 men were sitting in it, ready for the signal to drive onto the bridge and stop in the middle of the span. They were to take off a motor scooter from the cargo bay and speed off towards Manhattan, where they would remotely detonate the deadly cache of explosives in the truck, taking down the bridge. At the Mall of America, a truck was parked in the lot outside the main entrance, with explosives and ready to be driven through the doors in the middle of the structure to be blasted into the mind and spirit of Middle America. In Chicago, a janitorial crew had been infiltrated and planted explosives throughout the lobby, hidden in the bottom of trash cans. High heat chemicals in the bombs were designed to weaken the foundation of the country's tallest building. On a powerboat docked at a pier in Red Hook, Brooklyn, were 3 jihadis with rocket launchers, ready to set sail towards the Statue of Liberty to destroy it from the water, and go to New Jersey and abandon the boat, which would be booby-trapped with explosives. At the New York Stock Exchange, there were a dozen suicide vests hidden by some on the janitorial staff who had come to the USA as refugees from Syria, and at the mayor's insistence, were hired instead of the veterans who were promised those jobs. Everything was in place. The devastation would begin in Las Vegas and sweep eastward across the country. Ali Malouf thought, "What fools these Americans are. They brought upon themselves their own destruction by their naive concepts of justice and fairness. True justice will be ours. Fairness will go the way of their other weaknesses." The tents were up and the activities were beginning as a group of women arrived and began moving about the encampment. Middle Eastern music blasted through the speakers, and the smell of hashish filled the air. There was dancing and festivity as the moment of truth approached. Ali Malouf felt this was the night of change that his brothers had died to bring about. He had the supreme honor of being part in bringing this change to the West. What filled his heart was the knowledge that there were believers in elected offices in America who were part of this change. Brothers who were elected through the greed and stupidity of the American electorate. What a moment in time. What a great irony. He thought. There were brothers entrenched around America as lawyers, dentists, bankers, doctors, and in the media in control positions. Wilson showed as the merriment was in full swing. He found Ali and embraced him warmly. "I'm going to miss working with you, Ali. This has been quite an experience. This world will never be the same." "That's true, Douglas. It's oh so true," came Ali's response, which startled Wilson. His first name was never used by people with whom he interacted, with the exception of Mandrell. This set the rogue agent to quickly revisiting his prior conversations with the principal jihadi. "I want to be out of here and out of the country as soon as possible. You understand, I'm sure," Wilson said while running through the use of his first name through his mind. "You will be, as you have been assured." "Where's the key code for my money?" Wilson asked. "I have it right here in my pocket, Agent Wilson. Or should I say, such a special agent, Wilson." Malouf chuckled. "What does that mean?" Wilson asked. "Nothing more than the fact that you will always be special to me." Ali patted Wilson on the arm. "I'm joking, my friend." "Yeah, I get it." Wilson didn't like the exchange. He felt that Malouf was untrustworthy. If it were not for the payday he was receiving, he would have taken this son of a bitch out a long time ago. But money reigned supreme with him, and that demanded his toleration. "Do you?" Malouf smiled. "Do I what?"
Wilson was becoming agitated. Do you realize how special you are, Agent Wilson? Maloof laughed. Okay, you can have a laugh or two on me, but that gets stale after a while. I don't really have a sense of humor. You should know that, Wilson said tersely. Ali did not respond to that comment. Rather, he reached into his pocket. Wilson put his hand on his holstered weapon. The jihadist said, "Relax, Wilson. I mean you no harm. Here." He handed the agent a small replica of a crescent moon. "This is the key you shall present to the bank in Dubai." Wilson took it and examined it closely. "What's the code?" "2 words. Blended reason," he uttered. Blended reason. That's okay to remember. That's the idea, my friend. Come and join our celebration. As he approached the revelry, Wilson thought, I wonder when they're going to pull out their cigarette lighters and hold them over their heads as they begin to dig the scene. He chuckled to himself because what he was watching firmed his conviction that the hippie culture was the easiest led, and usually led by charismatic fools. He wondered if some of these people were just looking to party at any time, anywhere, like a hippie. They had no idea they were being silently surrounded by John Goad, U.S. Marshal Eric Kahn, and the Shadow Wolves. With a plan beginning to form, the lawmen knew that they could put down the plan to blow up the casino and hotel, but they needed hard intelligence on the entire plan, the most detailed possible, to stop everything else. They did not know about the dirty bomb. John felt instinctively that the person or persons who knew up where all the attacks were to take place and in what order was somewhere in this encampment. It wasn't hard to figure that out. What was hard was getting to that person or persons with that information. It had to be done quickly. The most important challenge was to get to him or her without getting killed, and then making certain he or she was still alive when they were reached. Kahn and John observed the activities from a vantage point hidden from the eyes of the security team who were covering the encampment, which in this case was the east side. Goad, we need to get moving. What's your feeling? Kahn asked. There has to be guards of some sort out here. My gut is telling me that we're not too far from them where we're sitting. John peered through the darkness with more than his eyes. Wait here, I'll be right back. He blended silently into the night and without hesitation moving towards the position he was being drawn to his instincts. And something else. The marshal tried to caution him about going alone. Before he could say a word, the big man disappeared into the night. The marshal sat poised and ready with an alertness learned through his experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan. He listened to the sounds of people celebrating the approaching death of his beloved country. He began to feel he was going to enjoy capping them before going for the higher-ups. John moved like a spirit towards and behind the prone figure who was observing a span in front of him that somehow did not include John Goad. It wasn't until he felt his throat being cut did his observation end. John pushed the diamond's face down to the ground, stifling his last gasps. The big lawman returned to where Kahn was positioned and led him and the wolf pack past the dead sentry, and then to fan out in the line, and to assault the unsuspecting reveler terrorists. It was jihadis, laying on point, guarding the encampment, with the approaching teams taken out quickly and silently by the Shadow Wolves. Kahn pointed out towards 2 men who were in deep conversation and a raging fire. They were slapping each other in the back and laughing loudly. That son of a bitch. Which one? That blonde-haired prick right there. Agent Wilson. Well, I'll be a donkey's ass. That motherless prick came to me last year wanting his men deputized to expand their jurisdiction Fast and Furious. Then he came back a week or so later, identified himself as being part of a unit with DHS, and most of the agency didn't know they existed. Tell me you didn't deputize him. No way I did that. What stopped you? I didn't like him or the way he acted. He was arrogant and antagonizing. I thought about throwing his ass out the door. Whoever he really is, here he is committing treason. I'm not surprised. John's bad feelings continued to build. Keep your cool, man. He might be the guy we're looking for who knows the big plan. Let's take them alive. John gave the word to the line. The 2 by the fire would be kept alive if at all possible, and he gave the order to move out. They moved closer and closer, looking for the most opportune moments to strike, and strike they did, taking out the 2 guards who were standing near the truck holding those who were about to die. Silenced shots dropped them like drapes, which caused the women to scream. Shots rang out instantly and other hooded guards came running towards the truck. They went down quickly as the shadows began spreading out through the complex, firing their weapons.
John and the marshal moved rapidly towards Ali Malouf and Douglas Wilson, who turned and ran to the edge of the encampment. In an instant, John was on Wilson, knocking him to the ground, kicking the gun out of his hand as he rolled away. His agility as he sprang back to his feet surprised Khan, lunged at him without realizing that he was leaping on a man who was holding a razor-sharp knife in his hand. Running the marshal's body, caught him in the heart, killing him instantly. John grabbed Wilson's wrist and flipped him backwards, ripping his shoulder apart as he flew through the air and landed hard on the ground. "Listen to me, Geronimo," Wilson warned with a face full of pain. "You got a chance to win this one, but you are so far from reality, it's amazing that you're standing here at this moment, you piece of ignorant trash. You'll be standing long now." He pulled the gun from his pocket as he spoke, but John's weapon pull was much faster as he drew a bead on the rogue agent. "You drop that, Wilson, or two things are going to happen. First things first, you're going to hear a loud crack, and then you'll never hear anything again." Wilson paused. He shrugged his shoulders as he said, "Okay, you got me. Here." He brought the weapon down, pointing at the ground like he was surrendering, then stopped. "You know something, Godet? You have the same look on your face that your friend Sunday had when I put one through his head." He had no idea it was coming, and neither do. He twirled the gun in his hand and started to squeeze the trigger, and John put the round right between his eyes. He fell, and the big lawman moved to Marshal Khan's body and saw he was gone. He said a short prayer for this man, and after a few seconds, he surveyed the area where he'd seen the other man running to the intense darkness. He took Eric Khan's phone from the dead man's pocket and moved like the dark animal he had become, playing on his acute senses and with something else that seemed to be guiding him. He struggled to find the other man as the sounds of screams, gunfire, and confusion reigned behind him. The Shadow Wolf leader moved past the tent, stopping just beyond it, straining for an indication where his prey might be hiding. His wait wasn't long as he had to dodge a slicing swipe from a blade. John rolled in a manner he learned in Aikido. Another swipe came close to his head as he rolled away once more. "Infidel! Give my regards to Allah. Tell him Ali Malouf continues to serve him by sending evil ones to you. Evil ones like you to him for judgment."
"I'll do that, but I got something planned for you."
"Yeah, what's that?" Malouf asked from the darkness. Somehow he was not worried about John shooting him. John felt that this man thought he couldn't kill him for some reason. "You know something I need to know. I will get that out of you before I'm dispatched to face your bullshit god." Interesting response, but it changes nothing. "The reality of your demise is at hand. You'd best prepare. The will of Allah prevails." John got a make on where the Islamic terrorist was standing, and he moved on him like a ghost before he could wield his blade once more. He took his arms and swept his foot, throwing him to the ground. He snarled. "And now, my hateful friend, I'll introduce you to some of the desert's friendly denizens." Ali Malouf was now beginning to get a sense of the doom that awaited him in the coming moments. John guided him into the darkness, saying, "There are snakes all around us, snakes that dwell in pits during the mating season. I know where one of those pits might be. I heard sounds coming from it as we approached your camp. I'm surprised that you didn't know about this pit." I pushed him along towards the depression in the ground that he had almost stumbled into when he went to take out the first sentry. The snakes were rattling in a chorus of frightening proportions. "I dropped a pig into that pit just an hour ago, a pig for the reptiles to feast on, commemorating your great festivity," John lied. Malouf was becoming more frightened by the second, realizing what might lay ahead of him. The big lawman said, "I'm going to make you the offer of a lifetime. You interested?" "Go ahead." Ali was now terrified. His former bravado was nowhere to be seen or heard as John walked him on his march of certain death. "You'd like to be with Allah, no?" John asked. "Of course, but not yet. What can I do?" "What can I do?" He started to plead. Facing death was turning his spine to liquid.
"Here's my offer. I'm gonna make it one time."
"Go ahead, please. Go ahead."
"I will let you live and watch you walk away tonight and go wherever you want to go."
"What do I have to do for that?" Ali dropped to his knees.
"Or I can drop you into this here pit. I believe you will die a harsh and painful death."
Ali Malouf was turning into liquid at the thought.
"I think the pig lasted while even all the bites it took. You know, those snakes don't like to be interrupted when they're getting some. Funny how that goes. Hate to see what they'll do with another interruption."
"What is it you want from me? Money? I got money. Women? Hashish? You can have anything."
"No. What I want from you is, where are the attacks going to be? When are they going to be? What are they going to be?"
They cannot be stopped. I cannot stop them. Take my money. I have lots of money. Let me go. You cannot stop this. John doubled down on him. Where are the attacks going to happen? Now, tell me! Where? How? When? You'll be snake bit in a few minutes, and I will stand here and watch you die. Ali knew if he told John everything he knew, his life would be worthless anyway. But to die this way was beyond comprehension. He knelt down, cowering. Stand up, John ordered. I can't tell you about that. I don't know what you're talking about. The cowering terrorist moaned. Alright, say hello to Allah for me. John held him by the collar and pushed him into the pit as Ali jerked backwards, screaming. The snakes were intertwined in massive rope-like groups, rattles blazing like a wave of cicadas, coming at them with their collective song. Ali dug his feet into the ground and started to push himself away from the slithering mass. As he did, one foot slipped, was at the fall, throwing his weight forward. Instantly, he was struck by two angry snakes on the same leg. He screamed as John yanked him back from the frenzied den. Look at what you've done. I'm gonna die. Do something.
And it's gonna get worse. I can stop your leg from rotting off. You gotta give me what I want.
Ali twisted to side in pain as he struggled to his feet. I can't. Okay, I'll just leave you here. He let his grip go on the dying man, allowing him to drop to the ground, rolling to and fro, screaming in pain. Noche came up behind John and saw what was happening. Snake? 2 snakes. He won't last long without an anti-venom. Ali looked up at him, pleading, screaming for help, trying to push himself away from the frenzied snakes. I'll go find Jerry. He's got some in his backpack, Noche said.
No need to. He's a goner. I'm gonna leave him here.
John looked down at the anguished Ali, who was in full-blown agony. John turned away towards the clamor of what was left of the battle. No! No! Ali shouted. Ali grabbed John by the ankle.
Treat your virgins well when you see him, asshole.
The big lawman stepped away. I'll tell you, do something. Please do something.
I'm listening.
John stopped. It will begin on the Strip in Las Vegas.
When and where?
Please give me something for these bites. I can't think clearly. I need to stop the pain. Get Jerry over here quick. Okay. John dragged Ali back towards the encampment as Noche broke into a dead run toward it. He returned, still running. One of his Shadow Wolf brothers, Jerry, was with him. The anti-venom was administered quickly as Ali's eyes went back and forth. Fright filled his face. Talk now! Ali gave him the entire plan, step by step, hoping that it would make the Shadow Wolf leader get him the medical aid he needed. John took the marshal's phone and hit the number last, dialed by Khan. He heard a man's voice say, "Go ahead, Eric."
This is John Nanton Goad calling to give you the information that my friend Marshal Eric Khan can't.
What do you mean, can't? He's dead. The Native American lawman told everything he learned from Ali Malouf. The information went up the line to those trusted by Marshal Eric Khan. It was now up to them to do what they would without going through the normal process of dealing with a terror attack on American soil. That process could no longer be trusted. They would find another way. A few days later, the Arizona desert sky was full of color as the sun set, and the spirit of the night began to stir. The clouds, a brilliant orange, hanging on the horizon with sun rays lighting behind them from the bottom up. As the day crept behind the mountains, off in the distance, but not too far from where a man named John Goad was standing. A dust devil danced between him and the setting sun. The tall man was breathing in the beautiful scene before him. He was aware of a man standing behind him, 80 feet away in the desert foliage. That man seemed to be taking photos of the evening desert that lay some 30 miles south of Phoenix and less than 10 seconds from Washington, D.C. He could hear what sounded like clicking behind him as the sound rode the desert air to his animal-like ears. There were others who had joined the man, but there was no conversation accompanying them. The one with the camera used hand signals to communicate. About 20 feet from where John was standing was a rise in the land. He proceeded with what he was doing despite the action behind him, moving slowly towards him while shaking his fist in the air. This was his grandfather's old way of bidding the sun a good night and asking it to return in the morning. As he ceremonially danced and chanted towards the rise, he suddenly dropped to his knees. Then he began his shaman-natured ritual celebrating the spirit of the wolf, the dominant creature of the night. As he chanted, A shadowy wolf came out of the darkness, kissed his forehead, and stood there, watching him. After a moment, the animal turned and looked at the men who stopped dead in their tracks as they approached from behind. The wolf's eyes glared at them as they froze in place. He then slowly turned his glance back to the kneeling Native American, kissing his forehead again before disappearing back into the shadows. At that point, John heard movement coming from what sounded like 3 men. He got back to his feet and continued dancing his way into the darkness. When behind the rise where he was able to observe them, they could not see him. He was a ghost warrior known as a shadow wolf, one who could blend into the night and disappear into the darkness at will. They spread out, moving swiftly without making sounds, closing in from different directions on the place where they last saw him. John's first thoughts were that they were sent by one of the drug cartels to take him out because of his success with intercepting these supply lines into Arizona. As suddenly as they appeared, they were gone. Motionless, John held his position for another 10 minutes to make sure they weren't doing the same and waiting for him to move. After a short time, the night sounds of the desert and his spirit wolf helped him to know they were gone.
I thought we'd gotten them all. Maybe I was wrong. Never underestimate the deep state,
John thought. Epilogue. Our president under siege. The radioactive material for the dirty bomb never arrived at the dumpster on the reservation in Arizona, but the explosives were detonated, and 20 people were killed who were working on the grounds along with several guests in the casino hotel. Jimmy and Sweet Tooth's mother was not one of them. Jimmy, Sweet Tooth, and Mom disappeared to the Federal Witness Protection Program. An attack on the Las Vegas Strip was led by an anti-terrorist SWAT team. 2 officers were killed, 3 civilians died, the terrorists were killed on that boulevard. The glass bridge at the Grand Canyon was no more. It was blown up by a team of radical Islamists who escaped after successfully firing RPGs into it. The Mall of America witnessed a huge explosion in the parking area just outside one of the main entrances as a truck was surrounded by law enforcement. A lone terrorist was detonated the vehicle, killing himself and 4 policemen. In Chicago, the Sears building was shaken by the heavy explosives that severely damaged the ground level from the front to the rear. Thankfully, nobody was killed because the building had been evacuated and closed. On Wall Street, a suicide bomber detonated an explosive vest on the trading floor as the closing bell rang, killing 35 people and sending the financial infrastructure of the United States into a tailspin that would not recover from for several years. Just off Red Hook in Brooklyn, a powerboat was blown out of the water by the Coast Guard as it failed to stop on their command as it made its way towards the Statue of Liberty. All 5 aboard the speedboat were killed. A truck, which had been parked on Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, rolled onto the Brooklyn Bridge when it suddenly stopped. 2 men fled the truck on a motor scooter that had been stored in the back of it. They escaped. The bridge was severely damaged by the explosives in the truck, but it was not destroyed. Richard Penelope, special counsel, was placed under arrest and charged with high treason. Mandrell went uncharged and disappeared. Pepe Costa and Antonio Septuan left the United States for parts unknown. They were placed on the international fugitive list and hunted down by the United States Marshals and Interpol. The former POTUS was in full disaster mode, leading an effort to discredit and drive his successor from office. Fully funded by a multi-billionaire outside the country, rioters were being recruited and paid for by this cabal and were waging war against the Constitution and the will of the American people. John Nanton Goad was appointed as the first Native American U.S. Marshal for the Federal District of Arizona. His appointment was intended as a mechanism by those in the swamp to control his actions. To say that did not work would be an understatement of immense proportions. Finally, there was a feeling of tremendous change that began sweeping across the land as a new president was sworn into office, was immediately set upon by the deep state and was left behind from the previous administration. But he was stronger and smarter and more adept than any of them had ever imagined. Okay, that was The Way of the Shadow Wolves. He still never explained what a 34th degree Bubba is. And, yeah, that's way too hopeful for the Trump administration, pal. So, yeah, that was honestly not as terrible as I thought it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still pretty crappy, but, I don't know, it was just mediocre, I guess. Like, shit-tier Tom Clancy knockoff with just a feint of idiotic magical powers. So would I recommend it? No. But no, it was not good. What will I read next time? Something that's also pretty shitty. I promised it would be Linkara's novels. Don't expect that anytime soon, but I will be doing that eventually. I'm Larson Halleck, and I'm going to take a very long break. And now, a word from our sponsors. Hello, are you a fan of Larson Halleck and the Barbaric Gentleman? Of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. Would you like to help the channel grow? Here's how you can. You can go to patreon.com and pledge some money, joining the ranks of the illustrious heroes you'll find at the end of the video. You can also go to paypal.me/LarsonHalleck to give me some money, or you can follow me on social media, at Larson Halleck on Twitter and Instagram. I don't use right-wing grifter sites like Gab and Parler because they suck. You can also buy my books. The links to do so are in the video description. And of course, please subscribe and spread the word. That name again is Larson Halleck, and I hope you enjoyed the video.